Good day, lovely viewers. Welcome to H. Potter. We have an exciting story lined up for you today. What if the Sorting Hat revealed Harry was the reincarnation of all four founders at age 5? Your engagement means the world to us. Like, comment, and subscribe to help us grow and bring you more amazing content. Without wasting any time, let's start. Chapter 1, The Awakening. Harry Potter huddled in the corner of his cupboard, knees pulled tight against his chest. His whole body shook from Uncle Vernon's latest explosion over a broken plate, one Dudley had actually knocked over. The familiar sting of tears threatened, but he refused to let them fall. Just once, he wished someone would believe him. Just once, he wished he wasn't alone. Freak, he whispered to himself, testing the word Uncle Vernon always spat at him. I'm a freak. The word tasted bitter on his 5-year-old tongue. Something hot and electric surged through his veins. Harry gasped, clutching his head as pain stabbed behind his eyes. Colors swirled in his vision, brilliant red, sunshine yellow, deep blue, and forest green, and with them came voices, distant but growing clearer. Patience, Godric. The boy suffers. He needs courage, Helga, not coddling. He needs knowledge first. Understanding. He needs survival. Power. Then vengeance. Harry screamed as memories not his own flooded his mind, vast stone hallways, towering castle spires, wands slicing through air, incantations in languages he'd never heard yet somehow understood. The cupboard door rattled violently. Boy! Shut your mouth or I'll give you something to scream about. Vernon's voice thundered from the other side. The lock clicked open. Vernon yanked the door wide, his meaty hand reaching in. Harry's terror exploded outward. A brilliant flash of red light erupted from his small body, throwing Vernon backward with tremendous force. The large man crashed into the opposite wall, cracking the plaster before slumping to the floor, dazed and gaping. Harry stared at his trembling hands. They glowed faintly red before the light faded. I did that, he whispered. Not a question, he knew. Somehow, he knew. Petunia shrieked from the kitchen doorway, Dudley cowering behind her skirt. What have you done? What are you? Harry stepped from the cupboard, standing taller than his 5 years should allow. When he spoke, his voice carried an authority far beyond his age. I remember now, he said simply. For distinct voices seemed to harmonize within his single child's voice. Not everything. But enough. Vernon struggled to his feet, face purple with rage and fear. You'll pay for that, boy. He lunged forward. Harry raised his hand instinctively. The air between them thickened, creating an invisible barrier. Vernon slammed into it and bounced back, falling again. I think, Harry said quietly, we need to talk. The kitchen table had never felt so much like a battlefield. Harry sat on one side, the Dursleys huddled together on the other. His aunt and uncle looked pale, while Dudley kept whimpering about Harry's freaky eyes, which had briefly flashed with 4 distinct colors. For years, Harry said, his voice unnervingly calm, you've called me freak. You were right, but not for the reasons you thought. Now see here, Vernon began, but fell silent when the water in his glass began to boil without heat. Harry hadn't even glanced at it. I'm a wizard. So were my parents. They didn't die in a car crash, they were murdered by another wizard. The lightning scar on my forehead? That's from a killing curse that somehow rebounded. How could you possibly know that? Petunia whispered, her face ashen. Harry tilted his head, confused by his own knowledge. I just know. The memories are coming back. Not just mine, there's 2. Whose? Vernon demanded, eyeing the exits. The founders. Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, Salazar Slytherin. They built Hogwarts, the wizard school my parents attended. And somehow, they're in me. Petunia's teacup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Impossible, she breathed. Lily mentioned those names. They lived 1,000 years ago. Harry nodded, just as bewildered as they were. I know. But I remember building the Great Hall with Godric. I remember planting the first herbs in the greenhouse with Helga. I remember charming the ceiling with Rowena. I remember. He paused, his expression darkening. I remember leaving in anger as Salazar. Vernon shot to his feet. That's enough of this nonsense. You've been reading those fantasy books from school. You know that's not true, Harry said quietly. You know what I am. Aunt Petunia knew my mother was a witch. You've always known about magic. The lights flickered. The refrigerator door swung open and closed. A potted plant on the windowsill suddenly sprouted, vines crawling across the sill toward Harry as if seeking his touch. Stop it! Petunia shrieked. I can't, Harry admitted, touching the vine that had reached him. It immediately flowered under his fingertips, producing a perfect lily. I don't know how to control it yet. The knowledge is coming in pieces. Vernon grabbed Harry's arm, yanking him from the chair. I won't have this in my house. Not anymore. Pain shot through Harry's arm. Something inside him, someone inside him, roared to life. Enough! Harry shouted, but the voice wasn't entirely his own. It was deeper, resonant with power. Godric's voice. Every window in the house shattered simultaneously. The lights exploded. The television in the living room cracked down the middle. The floor beneath Harry's feet trembled, and for a brief, terrifying moment, his green eyes blazed with golden fire. Vernon released him instantly, stumbling back. Dudley wailed, diving under the table. I don't want to hurt you, Harry said, his voice his own again, though firm beyond his years. But I won't let you hurt me anymore either. Harry sat cross-legged in his cupboard, which no longer felt like a prison. With a simple gesture, he had expanded the space inside without affecting the exterior dimensions, a trick from Rowena's memories that came to him naturally. The cupboard now contained what appeared to be a small studio apartment. A proper bed replaced his old mattress. Bookshelves lined one wall, though they stood empty for now. A desk and chair sat beneath a window that shouldn't exist. It showed the grounds of a castle Harry somehow knew was Hogwarts, though the view was clearly magical rather than real. He was trying to sort through the flood of memories and knowledge, but it came in confusing fragments. From Godric, courage, battle magic, wandless spellcasting, and a fierce protective instinct. From Helga, empathy, plant magic, healing knowledge, and unwavering loyalty. From Rowena, analytical thinking, spatial manipulation, languages, and thirst for learning. From Salazar, cunning, parseltongue, potion-making, and self-preservation. They weren't just skills, they were personalities, perspectives, lifetimes of experience trying to integrate with his 5-year-old consciousness. Why me? Harry whispered to the empty room. Why now? None of the voices answered directly, but he felt a vague impression, danger coming, need a vessel, blood connection, the prophecy child. Harry closed his eyes, concentrating. With effort, he managed to conjure 4 small balls of light, each a different color representing the founders. They hovered before him, pulsing slightly. Show me who you were, he commanded. The lights expanded, forming translucent figures, 2 wizards and 2 witches in medieval clothing. Godric, tall and broad-shouldered with a lion's mane of auburn hair and beard. Helga, plump and warm-eyed, her honey-blonde hair braided with flowers. Rowena, willowy and elegant, raven-haired with piercing eyes that missed nothing. Salazar, lean and intense, with silver-streaked dark hair and calculating eyes. They weren't ghosts, nor were they fully formed, just magical manifestations drawn from Harry's emerging memories. Why can't I remember everything at once? Harry asked them. Rowena's manifestation spoke first, her voice echoing strangely. Your mind is young. We must emerge slowly or risk damaging you. Helga nodded. We've waited centuries for the right vessel. We can be patient a while longer. Vessel? Harry frowned. Is that all I am to you? Godric shook his head firmly. No, child. You are Harry Potter first and always. We are merely additions to your soul, not replacements for it. Salazar's figure circled Harry, appraising him. You have survived much already. There is strength in you that is entirely your own. But why me? Why? A sudden pounding on the front door interrupted him. The manifestations vanished instantly as Harry's concentration broke. Boy! Vernon shouted. Get in your cupboard and stay quiet. Harry almost laughed. He was already in his cupboard, though they'd never recognize it now. He heard Vernon stomping to the door, heard it open, and then, good evening, Vernon. I believe we need to talk about Harry. That voice, gentle yet powerful, elderly yet vibrant. Harry didn't recognize it, yet another part of him did. All four parts of him did. Dumbledore, the Founder's voices whispered in his mind. Albus Dumbledore sat in the Dursleys' living room, looking completely out of place in his midnight blue robe sprinkled with silver stars. His long white beard was tucked into his belt, and his half-moon spectacles perched on his crooked nose as he surveyed the terrified Dursleys over their rims. The Ministry detected an extraordinary magical surge here today, Dumbledore said calmly. The most powerful accidental magic from a child in recorded history. Naturally, I came personally to investigate. Take him, Vernon blurted. Take the freak and never bring him back. Dumbledore's eyes hardened slightly. That freak, as you so charmingly call him, was placed in your care for his protection. A duty you clearly haven't taken seriously. Harry stood in the doorway, watching this exchange with interest. Fragments of memories told him this man was both ally and obstacle, respected by all four Founders, but with complicated relationships to each. Hello, Professor Dumbledore, Harry said quietly. Dumbledore turned, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of the small boy. Harry, he said gently. You recognize me? Yes and no, Harry replied. I've never met you before today, but they know you. Dumbledore's expression shifted from confusion to alarmed understanding in an instant. They? He asked carefully. Harry nodded. The Founders. They're inside me now. Waking up. The headmaster rose slowly from his seat, approaching Harry with caution. May I? He asked, raising his wand. Harry nodded again, standing perfectly still as Dumbledore performed several complex diagnostic spells. With each one, the old wizard's face grew paler. Extraordinary, he murmured. Not possession, reincarnation. No, something else entirely. Multiple magical signatures, all integrating with his core. They say you need to use the Sorting Hat to confirm it, Harry said suddenly, the words coming from some buried knowledge. It will recognize them. Dumbledore stared at Harry, momentarily speechless. The Sorting Hat, he repeated. Yes, it contains essences of all four Founders. If what you're experiencing is genuine. Enough of this madness. Vernon bellowed. I want him gone. Look what he did. He gestured wildly at the broken windows and electronics. Be silent, Dursley, Dumbledore said, his voice suddenly cold with power. Vernon's mouth continued to move, but no sound emerged. Harry will indeed be leaving your care today, but not because you demand it. Because you've proven unworthy of the trust placed in you. He turned back to Harry. Pack your belongings, child. You're coming with me to Hogwarts. Harry smiled. I don't have much to pack. But I'd like to show you something first. He led Dumbledore to his cupboard and opened the door. The headmaster's eyebrows shot up as he peered inside at the expanded space. Did you create this dimensional pocket yourself? Dumbledore asked, genuinely astonished. Rowena showed me how, Harry said simply. It was actually pretty easy once I understood the principles of spatial manipulation. Dumbledore's expression grew troubled. Harry, what you've done here is magic that most adult wizards couldn't perform with a wand, let alone wandlessly. If you truly contain the knowledge and power of the Founders. It's coming back in pieces, Harry explained. I don't have their full memories or abilities yet. Just fragments. Even fragments of their power would make you extraordinary, Dumbledore mused. Come, we must consult the Sorting Hat immediately. Harry's first journey by Floo-Powder left him dizzy and covered in soot, but the moment he stepped into the headmaster's office at Hogwarts, something remarkable happened. The castle itself seemed to recognize him. The stone floor beneath his feet warmed slightly. The flames in the fireplace burned brighter. The various silver instruments on Dumbledore's desk whirred to life, spinning and emitting puffs of colored smoke. The castle knows you, Dumbledore said quietly, watching Harry's reaction. Harry nodded, feeling a profound sense of homecoming. We built it, he whispered. Together. Our magic is in every stone. The portraits of previous headmasters and headmistresses stirred in their frames, whispering excitedly to each other. Is that? Could it really be? After all this time? Dumbledore retrieved an ancient, patched wizard's hat from a high shelf. The Sorting Hat looked exactly as it did in Harry's fragmented memories, though newer then, freshly created by Godric with contributions from all 4 Founders. Ah, the hat said as Dumbledore held it. I feel them. Bring him closer. Harry approached without fear. Dumbledore gently placed the hat on his head, where it immediately fell over his eyes. Well, 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 the hat whispered into Harry's mind. Never thought I'd see the day. All 4 of you, together again, in one vessel no less. Godric. Helga. Rowena. Salazar. Can you hear me, old friends? Harry felt the presences within him stir and respond. Through him, they communicated with their creation. We are here, old friend, they said together, using Harry's mind as a conduit. Not fully awakened yet, I see, the hat noted. But growing stronger. Why now, after all these centuries? The ancient enemy stirs, Salazar's voice said through Harry. The Dark Lord was merely a shadow of what comes. The boy was born to prophecy, Godric added. With connections to all our bloodlines through his ancestors. We slumbered in the spaces between, Rowena continued, waiting for the one who could unite our powers. He needs our guidance, Helga finished. And we need his pure heart. The hat was silent for a long moment. It's true, Headmaster, it finally announced aloud for Dumbledore to hear. This boy contains the essences of all 4 Hogwarts Founders. Not merely their knowledge or magic, but fragments of their very souls, preserved through the centuries for this purpose. Dumbledore removed the hat gently. Harry blinked as the office came back into view. The headmaster looked deeply troubled. Harry, he said carefully, do you understand what this means? Harry considered the question. Not entirely, he admitted. I know I'm still me, but also more than me now. I know they chose me for some reason, that there's danger coming. Something they faced before and sealed away, but it's returning. The implications are staggering, Dumbledore murmured. Your magical education, your safety, everything must be reconsidered. Harry suddenly pointed to one of the cabinets lining the office wall. My father's invisibility cloak is in there, he said. It was Ignotus Peveril's. It's mine by right of inheritance. Dumbledore froze. How could you possibly? Godric was related to the Peverils, Harry explained. He recognizes the cloak's magical signature even from here. Plus, he added with a very childlike shrug, Salazar says you're the type to collect powerful artifacts, especially those connected to death. A portrait of a thin, clever-looking wizard burst into laughter. He's got you pegged, Albus. Thank you, Phineas, Dumbledore said dryly. He turned back to Harry. You're right, of course. The cloak is yours, and I'll return it to you when you're a bit older. Soon, Harry said firmly, with a flash of Godric's determination in his eyes. Dumbledore nodded slowly, reassessing the child before him. Harry, I need to ask you something important. These founder essences within you, are they controlling you? Harry shook his head. No. They guide me, teach me, but I'm still me. They say I'm the driver, they're just passengers with really good maps. He smiled at his own analogy. And how does it feel? Having 4 ancient wizards and witches in your mind? Crowded, Harry admitted. But right somehow. Like puzzle pieces fitting together. Their memories are still mostly blocked, they say my mind needs to mature before I can handle everything they know. A wise precaution, Dumbledore agreed. Though even limited access to their knowledge makes you unique in the magical world. Tell me, what abilities have manifested so far? Harry demonstrated by holding out his hand. A small flame appeared above his palm, wandless magic from Godric. He then made a small plant sprout from the stone floor, Helga's gift. With a wave, he transfigured Dumbledore's inkpot into a raven that flew around the office before reverting, Rowena's talent. Finally, he hissed softly, and the decorative snake on one of the instruments responded, Salazar's Parseltongue. Remarkable, Dumbledore breathed. And potentially dangerous, Harry. There are those who would seek to use these abilities, and you, for their own purposes. Like Voldemort, Harry said calmly. Dumbledore winced slightly at the name. Yes. He's not truly gone, as I suspect the founders have told you. Harry nodded. A fragment of his soul clings to existence. He'll try to return. He'll try to take what I have. Which is why your protection is paramount, Dumbledore said firmly. The blood wards at your aunt's home won't work anymore, Harry interrupted. My magic has changed too fundamentally. Besides, they were failing already because there was no love there. He looked up at Dumbledore with accusation in his eyes. You left me with people who hated magic, who hated me. Godric says that was either foolish or calculating, and he's not sure which is worse. Dumbledore flinched visibly. I believed it was the safest option at the time. There were other options, Harry said, Rowena's analytical mind providing alternatives. Magical guardians bound by unbreakable vows. Fidelius protected properties. Even raising me yourself. I am an old man with many responsibilities, and too many secrets, Harry finished for him. Salazar understands that part, at least. He sighed, suddenly looking very much like the 5-year-old child he was. I'm tired, Professor. This has been a really weird day, even for someone with 4 extra people in their head. Dumbledore's expression softened. Of course, my boy. We have much to discuss, but it can wait until you've rested. For tonight, I think a room near the hospital wing would be appropriate. Madame Pomfrey can monitor you while you sleep, ensure this transformation isn't harming you physically. Harry nodded tiredly, then looked up with sudden childlike hope. Can I explore the castle tomorrow? They want to see how it's changed. I think that can be arranged, Dumbledore said with a small smile. Under supervision, of course. As they left the office, Harry paused in the doorway. Professor? They want me to tell you something. Yes, Harry. They say you need to check the Gaunt Shack in Little Hangleton. Something dark is hidden there, something you've been searching for. But be careful. It's trapped. Dumbledore's face paled dramatically. I see. Thank you, Harry. The following morning, Harry sat in the hospital wing, patiently allowing Madame Pomfrey to perform various diagnostic spells. The Medewitch muttered continuously under her breath, occasionally shooting baffled looks at Professor McGonagall, who watched the proceedings with tight-lipped concern. Well? McGonagall finally asked. Is the boy healthy? Physically? He's malnourished and slightly small for his age, but otherwise healthy, Pomfrey replied. Magically? I've never seen anything like it. His core isn't just unusually powerful for a child, it's structured differently. For distinct magical signatures, all intertwined with his own native magic. And that's not harming him? McGonagall pressed. Remarkably, no. They seem to be integrating smoothly. Pomfrey turned to Harry. How do you feel, dear? Harry considered this. Hungry, he decided. And excited to see the castle. Both witches smiled despite themselves. Well, we can certainly fix the hunger, Pomfrey said, summoning a house elf who promptly delivered a hearty breakfast. As Harry ate, McGonagall studied him thoughtfully. Mr. Potter, the headmaster has asked me to serve as your guardian for the time being. Would that arrangement be acceptable to you? Harry looked up, surprised. Really? You do that? Indeed. My quarters can be expanded to include a suitable room for you, and I'm uniquely positioned to help with your magical education until you're old enough to attend Hogwarts properly. Harry beamed at her. That would be brilliant. Godric always liked you, you know. Says you have the heart of a lion. McGonagall blinked rapidly. Thank you, Mr. Potter. Or rather, thank Godric, I suppose. Rowena approves too. Says you've got the right mix of discipline and creativity for teaching. Helga thinks you work too hard and don't get enough sun. And Salazar. Harry paused, listening internally. Salazar says you'd have done well in his house, despite appearances. McGonagall looked torn between flattery and alarm. I see. Well, please thank them all for their assessments. She straightened. Now then, after you've finished breakfast, I believe the headmaster promised you a tour of the castle. Harry nodded eagerly, shoving the last piece of toast into his mouth. They're practically buzzing with excitement to see what's changed. Especially Rowena, she wants to check if her enchantments on the library held up. Then we shouldn't keep them waiting, McGonagall said with the hint of a smile. Though I must insist you hold my hand throughout the tour. The castle can be quite dangerous for small children. Harry slipped off the bed and took her hand without complaint. I'm ready. The tour began in the great hall, where Harry stood breathless, gazing up at the enchanted ceiling that showed the morning sky. It worked, he whispered. Rowena wasn't sure if the charm would last centuries without renewal. The ceiling has been maintained by successive headmasters, McGonagall explained. But the fundamental enchantment remains Ravenclaw's work. As they walked through the castle, Harry provided a running commentary that alternated between childish wonder and ancient knowledge. In the kitchens, he showed McGonagall a hidden panel that revealed Helga's original herb garden designs. In the library, he went straight to a particular shelf and pulled out a book, revealing a secret compartment containing Rowena's personal research notes, untouched for centuries. Near the Gryffindor common room, he placed his hand on a seemingly ordinary wall, causing a hidden door to appear, one leading to Godric's private dueling chamber. Each revelation left McGonagall more astonished than the last. But it was their visit to the dungeons that provided the biggest surprise. There, Harry said, pointing to an unremarkable stone wall. That's not the real entrance to the Slytherin common room. I beg your pardon. McGonagall frowned. That has been the entrance for as long as anyone can remember. Harry shook his head. It's a decoy. Salazar created it when tensions rose between him and Godric. The true common room is hidden much deeper, with access to his chamber. The Chamber of Secrets? McGonagall asked sharply. Potter, that's a myth. Harry gave her a look far too knowing for his young face. No, Professor, it's not. But it's not what the legends say either. It wasn't built to house a monster to purge Muggleborns. That's what people assumed later because of how Salazar left. Then what is it? A sanctuary, Harry said simply. A final defense for the students if the castle were ever overrun. And a repository for knowledge too dangerous for general access. He paused, head tilted as if listening. Salazar says he didn't hate Muggleborns. He feared what their Muggle relatives might do if they discovered magic. Remember, they were burning witches back then. McGonagall looked stunned. That contradicts everything history has told us about Slytherin. History is written by the survivors, Harry said with a shrug. And Salazar wasn't around to defend himself after he left. Before McGonagall could respond, Dumbledore appeared at the end of the corridor, walking briskly toward them. His right hand was bandaged heavily, and his face looked drawn. "Minerva, Harry," he greeted them. "I see the tour is going well." Harry's eyes fixed on Dumbledore's injured hand. "You went to the shack already," he said, not a question. "You found the ring." Dumbledore nodded gravely. "I did indeed. You were right about the trap. Most ingenious and deadly. Had I not been forewarned, you'd have tried to wear it," Harry said, his voice suddenly blending with Salazar's deeper tones. "Foolish. The compulsion was part of the trap." "Indeed," Dumbledore acknowledged. "The object has been dealt with." "That's one," Harry said cryptically. 5 more remain." McGonagall looked between them in confusion. "Albus? What is he talking about?" "Later, Minerva," Dumbledore said gently. "For now, I believe our young charge has had enough excitement for one day." He looked down at Harry. "Unless there's something else you'd like to show us?" Harry considered this, consulting internally. "Just one more thing," he decided. "But it needs to be outside." They followed him to the shores of the Great Lake. Harry knelt at the water's edge and placed his palm on the surface. He spoke in a language neither adult recognized, not Parseltongue, something far older. The lake's surface rippled. A massive tentacle emerged, but instead of the familiar giant squid, it belonged to something else, something that hadn't been seen by human eyes in centuries. A massive serpentine head broke the surface, iridescent scales shimmering in the sunlight. "The Guardian," Harry said reverently. "Placed here by all 4 founders as the castle's final protector. Everyone thinks it's just a giant squid because that's what it shows them." The creature lowered its magnificent head, regarding Harry with ancient intelligence. It made a sound, part trill, part rumble, that somehow conveyed recognition and respect. "They hid their greatest protections in plain sight," Harry explained as the creature slipped back beneath the waves. "People see what they expect to see." Dumbledore stared at the now calm lake, his expression one of profound wonder. "In all my years as headmaster," he murmured, "I never knew." "There's a lot about Hogwarts that's been forgotten," Harry said. "But I'm starting to remember." He looked up at both adults, his eyes briefly flashing with the Founder's colors. "And I think that's why I'm here. To remember what's been lost before we need it again." That evening, after Harry had been tucked into his new bed in McGonagall's expanded quarters, the headmaster and deputy headmistress sat in Dumbledore's office, trying to make sense of the extraordinary developments. "It's unprecedented, Albus," McGonagall said, accepting a glass of fire whiskey with a shaking hand. "The boy is 5 years old, yet he navigated the castle like he built it himself, which, in a way, I suppose he did." "The implications are staggering," Dumbledore agreed. "Not just for Harry's future, but for our understanding of magic itself. The Founders found a way to preserve aspects of themselves across a millennium, waiting for the right vessel. But why Harry? Why not his father, or grandfather? Why now?" Dumbledore sighed heavily. Harry mentioned an ancient enemy that the Founders faced before. Something far worse than Voldemort, apparently. "I fear they chose Harry precisely because of the prophecy, not the one about Voldemort, but perhaps an older, deeper prophecy we know nothing about. So the boy is to face not one but 2 Dark Lords." McGonagall looked outraged. "That's too much burden for one child." "I agree," Dumbledore said firmly. "Which is why we must help him prepare, while still allowing him to be a child whenever possible." The Sorting Hat, still sitting on Dumbledore's desk, suddenly spoke up. The founders weren't fools, it said. They wouldn't have chosen the boy if he couldn't handle their legacy. But they also know the value of childhood, even Salazar understood that. They'll pace his development appropriately. And what of his education? McGonagall asked. He clearly already knows magic far beyond his years. Yet still possesses a 5-year-old's emotional maturity, Dumbledore pointed out. I propose a balanced approach. Regular lessons in controlling his abilities, alongside normal childhood activities and socialization with magical children his age. The Weasleys have a boy close to his age, McGonagall suggested. And Augusta Longbottom's grandson. Excellent suggestions. And perhaps in time, we should introduce him to some of the magical creatures on the grounds. Hagrid would be delighted to assist with that aspect of his education. They continued planning late into the night, while in his new bedroom, Harry Potter dreamed of a castle being built stone by stone, of 4 friends creating something magical together, and of a darkness they had once faced and defeated, a darkness that would soon return. We'll be ready this time, he murmured in his sleep, 4 voices harmonizing as one. Together, we'll be ready. Chapter 2, New Foundations. Harry woke up screaming, his 6-year-old body drenched in sweat. The bedroom door burst open, and Minerva McGonagall rushed in, wand raised. Harry. What's wrong? She scanned the room for threats before focusing on the trembling boy. I saw it, Harry gasped, clutching his blanket. The thing they fought. It was. McGonagall sat on the edge of his bed and pulled him close. After 9 months as his guardian, she'd grown accustomed to these night terrors, glimpses of ancient memories surfacing in dreams. Deep breaths, she instructed gently. You're safe. Harry nodded against her shoulder. It had no face. Just darkness where a face should be. And it ate magic. Just, swallowed it whole. McGonagall stroked his hair, something she never thought she'd find herself doing when she agreed to become the boy's guardian. Did they tell you what it's called? The Devourer, Harry whispered. It came from between worlds. They barely stopped it last time, and it cost them everything. A flash of green briefly illuminated his eyes, Salazar's influence surfacing. That's why they put pieces of themselves away. Insurance. McGonagall continued holding him until his breathing calmed. Would some hot chocolate help? She asked. The question pulled Harry back to his childish nature, and he nodded eagerly. With cinnamon? Of course. She smiled, summoning her house elf. Nippy, hot chocolate for Harry, please. With cinnamon. As they waited, McGonagall studied her young ward. In less than a year, he'd grown remarkably. Not just physically, though proper nutrition had helped tremendously, but magically. The Founder's knowledge continued integrating with his own consciousness in carefully measured doses. Better now? She asked as Harry sipped his chocolate. Yeah. He grinned, chocolate mustache on his upper lip. Sorry I woke you up. Nonsense. That's what I'm here for. Godric says you're a natural guardian, Harry told her. Better than he expected. McGonagall's lips twitched. High praise indeed from Gryffindor himself. Helga says you're too strict sometimes, though. I imagine she would, McGonagall said dryly. Finish your chocolate. Tomorrow's a big day, your first trip to Gringotts. Harry's eyes widened. Really? We're going to check for the vault. Dumbledore has arranged everything. If what you suspect is true, and the Founders left a sealed vault. It's true, Harry said with absolute certainty. I can feel it waiting. Their legacy, our legacy. McGonagall nodded, still not entirely comfortable with how Harry alternated between referring to the Founders as separate entities and as aspects of himself. Back to sleep now. Dawn comes early. As she turned to leave, Harry called out. Professor? Yes, Harry. Thank you for taking care of me. I know it wasn't in your plans. McGonagall felt her heart tighten. Sometimes the best things in life aren't planned, Mr. Potter. Diagon Alley buzzed with midweek activity as McGonagall led Harry through the crowds, his hand firmly in hers. Despite her transfiguration skills, she'd struggled to fully disguise the lightning bolt scar, settling for a simple glamour charm and a small cap pulled low over his forehead. "Stay close," she murmured. "Remember what we discussed." Harry nodded seriously. "No showing off founder magic. No talking about them out loud. Act like a normal kid." "Precisely." They climbed the marble steps to Gringotts, where Harry immediately straightened his posture. The Founder's memories supplied proper goblin etiquette, knowledge that surprised McGonagall when he'd mentioned it during their preparation. Inside, Harry approached the nearest available teller and bowed slightly. "Honored banker, may your gold flow and your enemies fall," he said in perfect gobbledygook. The goblin's head snapped up, eyes narrowing at the small human speaking their language. "And may your vaults overflow and your blade stay sharp," he replied cautiously. "What business brings a wizard child to Gringotts?" "I seek access to my inheritance," Harry stated, switching back to English. "Both known and forgotten." McGonagall stepped forward. "Mr. Harry Potter wishes to access his vaults, and to inquire about any additional vaults that might be tied to him through magical lineage." The goblin peered down at Harry with renewed interest. "Potter, is it? Very well. Griphook will take you to the inheritance office." A smaller goblin appeared and gestured for them to follow. Instead of heading toward the carts, he led them through an ornate door into a corridor lined with office doors. "The Potter heir is quite young to be claiming inheritance," Griphook observed. "Special circumstances," McGonagall replied diplomatically. They entered a spacious office where an elderly goblin sat behind a massive desk covered in parchments and curious devices. "Blackclaw handles inheritance matters," Griphook announced before withdrawing. The elderly goblin studied Harry intently. "So, the Potter boy wishes to claim his inheritance. Irregular, but not unprecedented." He pulled out a small obsidian bowl. 7 drops of blood, if you please." McGonagall bristled. "Is that really necessary? He's only 6. "Blood never lies, Professor," Blackclaw replied simply. "If there are dormant claims, only blood will reveal them." Harry stepped forward before McGonagall could object further. "It's okay. They did this in their time too." He allowed Blackclaw to prick his finger with a silver needle. 7 drops of blood fell into the bowl, where they swirled and spread, forming intricate patterns on the obsidian surface. Blackclaw's eyes widened incrementally. "Fascinating. What is it?" McGonagall leaned forward. "The Potter bloodline is clear, of course," Blackclaw murmured. "With connections to Peveril and Gryffindor, as was known. But there's more." His gnarled finger traced various patterns. "Ravenclaw, through his mother's line, unusual for a Muggleborn, but not impossible. And fainter connections to both Hufflepuff and Slytherin, more magical resonance than direct bloodline." The goblin looked up sharply. "This pattern here is most curious. I've only seen it once before, in ancient records. It indicates soul binding." "Meaning?" McGonagall asked, though she already suspected. "Meaning," Blackclaw said slowly, "that Mr. Potter here shares his soul space with others. Powerful others." His eyes narrowed. "The Founders 4. Harry met the goblin's gaze steadily. "Yes." Blackclaw sat back. "The old prophecies speak of their return when darkness rises anew." He abruptly stood. "Come. There is indeed a vault you should see." The cart ride took them deeper beneath Gringotts than McGonagall had ever ventured before. Past the high-security vaults, past even the dragon-guarded level, to the very oldest part of the bank where the rough-hewn tunnel suggested they predated even goblin construction. "The Founder's Vault has not been opened in over 900 years, Blackclaw explained as the cart finally stopped. "The last recorded visit was by Helena Ravenclaw, shortly before her death. They stood before a massive circular door with no visible lock or handle. Four symbols were carved into its surface: lion, badger, eagle, and serpent, arranged around a central pentagon. "Only one with the essence of all four founders may enter," Blackclaw said. "Blood, magic, and intent together will open the way." Harry approached without hesitation. He placed his palm on the central pentagon and closed his eyes. His hand glowed with shifting colors: red, yellow, blue, green, as he spoke in a strange, layered voice. "We return in time of need. Open to your creators." The symbols lit up one by one, and the massive door silently swung inward, revealing a chamber that defied the dimensions of the tunnel. Inside was not a typical vault filled with gold and treasures, but a vast library, laboratory, and training room combined. Bookshelves lined the circular walls, reaching up to a domed ceiling enchanted to show the night sky. Four workstations occupied the corners, each clearly designed for a specific founder. McGonagall gasped. "Merlin's beard." Harry walked forward as if in a trance, touching objects with reverent familiarity. "Their personal belongings," he murmured. "Their most important work." "I'll leave you to explore," Blackclaw said, remaining by the door. "The vault recognizes you as its owner now. You may take whatever you wish, it is all yours by right." Harry nodded absently, already examining Rowena's desk where an intricate astronomical model spun slowly. McGonagall followed him, overwhelmed by the historical significance of what surrounded them. "Look," Harry said, pointing to four pedestals in the center of the room. Three held wands, presumably belonging to Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. The fourth pedestal, Gryffindor's, held only dust. "His wand became the core of the sword of Gryffindor," Harry explained. "These others were left here in case they were needed again. He didn't reach for them, though. I'm not ready for them yet. They say I need to grow into my own power first." "Wise," McGonagall agreed. "What else is here?" Harry moved to a cabinet near Helga's workstation and opened it to reveal hundreds of carefully preserved plant specimens and potion ingredients, some from species long thought extinct. Near Rowena's desk, a bookshelf held texts written in languages McGonagall didn't recognize. By Salazar's area, a collection of crystalline orbs emitted soft, pulsing light. "Memory spheres," Harry explained. "They're personal memories, preserved for me, I guess. For when I'm ready." For 2 hours, they explored the vault's contents, with Harry occasionally pocketing small items the founder's essences deemed appropriate for him to take now: a small plant-growing kit from Helga, a child-sized thinking cap from Rowena, a practice dueling orb from Godric, and a tiny silver snake that animated when touched from Salazar. As they prepared to leave, Harry paused by a small golden chest sitting on a table they'd initially overlooked. His expression grew solemn as he opened it. Inside lay 4 medallions, each bearing one of the founder's symbols. "The keys of Hogwarts," he said quietly. "When worn by the rightful heir, they grant complete control over the castle's deepest magic." He closed the chest without taking them. "Not yet. I'm not ready for that responsibility." McGonagall placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You're wise beyond your years, Harry." He looked up at her with a child's tired smile. "Only sometimes. The rest of the time I'm just a kid who wants ice cream." She laughed. "Then ice cream it is, after we visit your regular vault for some spending money." As they left, neither noticed one of the crystalline memory spheres in Salazar's collection glow briefly before going dark again, as if activated then deactivated by their presence. "Again, Harry." 7-year-old Harry ducked beneath Filius Flitwick's practice spell, rolled to his right, and came up with his hand extended. A soft blue shield formed around him just as the charms professor sent another harmless stinger his way. "Excellent." Flitwick clapped his tiny hands. "Your reflexes are improving remarkably." They stood in the room of requirement, transformed into a training arena for Harry's weekly combat lessons. Though young, Harry's unique situation demanded early training in defensive magic, something Dumbledore had arranged with select, trusted professors during school holidays. "Godric says my footwork is still sloppy," Harry admitted, dropping the shield. "And Salazar thinks I'm telegraphing my movements too much." Flitwick nodded thoughtfully. "They're not wrong. But remember, your body is still developing. Physical grace will come with time and practice." Harry grabbed a towel to wipe sweat from his face. "Can we try wandless summoning again? Rowena's been nagging about it all week." "Nagging, is she?" Flitwick grinned. "Tell Madame Ravenclaw that proper magical education follows a schedule. She says schedules are for students who don't have a millennium of knowledge trying to surface in their minds," Harry retorted with a cheeky smile. Flitwick laughed. "Touché. Very well, let's work on summoning. But only for 20 minutes, then we move to theory as planned." As Harry practiced calling objects to his hand with increasing precision, Flitwick observed him with professional interest. The boy's magical development was unprecedented, accelerated by the Founder's knowledge yet constrained by his young body and core. Dumbledore had assembled a remarkable educational program. McGonagall handled transfiguration and general magical theory. Flitwick taught charms and dueling basics. Sprout visited monthly for intensive herbology sessions, delighted by Harry's natural affinity, courtesy of Hufflepuff. Babbling came for ancient runes, a subject Harry absorbed with astonishing speed thanks to Ravenclaw's memories. Only potions remained problematic. Snape had flatly refused to teach Harry, still struggling with the boy's connection to both James Potter and Salazar Slytherin. Instead, a retired potions mistress named Adelaide Merk visited twice monthly, though Harry confided that Salazar found her techniques adequately competent but lacking innovation. "That's enough for today," Flitwick announced after Harry successfully summoned a book from across the room. "You've made excellent progress." Harry beamed at the praise. Despite his extraordinary circumstances, he remained a child eager to please his teachers. "Professor," he asked as they gathered their things, "can I invite Ron to stay overnight this weekend? McGonagall said it was okay if you didn't mind supervising on Saturday when she has her meeting." Flitwick smiled. Dumbledore had wisely insisted that Harry maintain friendships with children his own age. The Weasley family had been carefully introduced to the situation, and young Ronald had become Harry's first true friend. "I'd be delighted to supervise your playdate," Flitwick assured him. "Perhaps we could even teach Mr. Weasley some chess strategies. I hear he's quite talented." "Brilliant!" Harry exclaimed. "Ron's gonna flip when I show him the new Quidditch figurines Hagrid got me." These moments of pure childish enthusiasm reassured everyone involved in Harry's unusual upbringing. Despite the ancient knowledge and power gradually awakening within him, Harry Potter remained, at heart, a normal boy. Most of the time. "The Ministry cannot simply ignore this situation any longer, Dumbledore." Cornelius Fudge paced the headmaster's office, his lime-green bowler hat clutched nervously in his hands. 8-year-old Harry sat quietly in a corner chair, observing with interest as McGonagall stood protectively nearby. "Minister," Dumbledore said calmly, "young Harry's guardianship and education have been handled with the utmost care and discretion. I fail to see what concern this is of the Ministry's." "Concern?" Fudge sputtered. "A child with the magical knowledge of the Founders themselves. Reports of extraordinary magical outbursts. Ancient vaults being opened. The goblins are talking, Dumbledore. Rumors are spreading. And your solution is?" McGonagall asked coldly. Fudge straightened. "The boy should be placed under Ministry supervision. For his own safety, of course, and for proper monitoring of his development." "Absolutely not," McGonagall said flatly. "I'm afraid I must agree with Professor McGonagall," Dumbledore added. "Harry's current arrangement provides both the security and specialized education his unique situation requires." Fudge reddened. "The Ministry has a right, may I say something?" Harry's young voice interrupted. All three adults turned to him in surprise. Harry stood, his posture shifting subtly from child to something more dignified. "Minister Fudge," he said politely, "I understand your concerns. The idea of a child with the Founder's knowledge is scary. But taking me away from the people who've cared for me these past 3 years won't help anyone." "Young man, this is a matter for adults. Actually, it's a matter about me," Harry countered firmly. "And while I'm physically 8, I have centuries of political experience to draw upon." His eyes flashed briefly with Slytherin's emerald glow. "Did you know that Salazar wrote most of the original ministry charter? The very document that establishes your authority?" Fudge paled slightly. "I don't want trouble, Minister," Harry continued more gently. "I just want to grow up safely and learn to use these abilities responsibly. Professor Dumbledore reports to the Wisengamot on my progress quarterly. Maybe you could receive copies of those reports." Fudge blinked, clearly caught off guard by the reasonable suggestion from a child. Well, that would be a start, I suppose. And perhaps," Harry added with a smile Helga would have approved of, "you might visit occasionally. See my training firsthand. It's quite fascinating what the Founders knew that's been lost to modern wizardry." Flattery worked its magic. Fudge's expression shifted from suspicion to intrigue. "Regular reports and occasional visits, yes, that might satisfy the ministry's concerns for now." After further negotiation, the minister departed with a significantly improved outlook on the situation, convinced he'd negotiated a diplomatic triumph. When the door closed behind him, Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "Most impressive, Harry. I believe Salazar would be proud of your political maneuvering." "Actually, that was more Helga's approach," Harry replied with a grin. "Salazar wanted me to threaten him with obscure magical bylaws, but I thought honey might work better than vinegar." McGonagall shook her head in amazement. "Sometimes I forget you're just a child, and then I ask for extra dessert and remind you I'm still growing." Harry finished cheekily. She smiled despite herself. "Precisely. Speaking of which, I believe lunch is ready in our quarters. Shall we?" As they left, Dumbledore called after them. "Harry, remember we have our special lesson this afternoon. I believe it's time to discuss Horcruxes in more detail." Harry's expression sobered instantly. "Yes, sir. Salazar's been pushing to address that. He says time is getting shorter." The light mood evaporated at the reminder of darker matters that even a child with ancient wisdom couldn't escape. 9-year-old Harry sat cross-legged on the forest floor, eyes closed in meditation. Around him, plants grew at an accelerated rate, flowers blooming, vines curling, moss spreading in vibrant green patches. Nearby, Neville Longbottom watched in wide-eyed wonder. "That's amazing, Harry." Harry opened one eye and grinned at his friend. "Want to try?" "Helga says anyone can do plant magic with the right connection to the earth." After McGonagall had become Harry's guardian, Dumbledore had carefully orchestrated introductions to several children who would eventually be Harry's classmates. Ron Weasley had been first, followed by Neville, and most recently, Luna Lovegood from the nearby village of Ottery St. Catchpole. Neville scooted closer. "You really think I could do that?" "Definitely," Harry said with absolute certainty. "I can feel your magic, it's got a natural affinity for growing things." He took Neville's hand. "Close your eyes and feel your magic flowing down into the soil." The boys sat together in silence. Slowly, the wildflowers around Neville's knees began to stretch taller, their colors brightening. "Look!" Harry exclaimed. "You're doing it." Neville's eyes flew open, and he gasped in delight at the blossoms surrounding him. "I did magic. Without a wand." "Told you," Harry said proudly. "Helga says you've got the touch." Their quiet celebration was interrupted by McGonagall's voice calling from the edge of the forest. "Boys! Time to return for lunch." They scrambled to their feet, Neville still marveling at the flowers he'd enhanced. As they walked back toward the castle, Harry felt a sudden chill that had nothing to do with the autumn breeze. He stopped abruptly, head tilted as if listening. "Harry?" Neville asked. "You okay?" Harry scanned the trees around them, his expression unnaturally focused for a child. "Something's wrong," he murmured. "The forest feels afraid." He placed his palm against a nearby oak. Images flashed through his mind, hooded figures, dark magic, a ritual site being prepared deeper in the forest. "Neville, run to Professor McGonagall. Tell her there are Death Eaters in the forest." "Death Eaters?" Neville stammered. "But how? Just go." Harry pushed his friend toward the castle. "Tell her they're setting up some kind of ritual. I'm going to track them." "You can't go alone." Neville protested. "I'm never alone," Harry reminded him grimly. "Now go." As Neville raced toward McGonagall, Harry turned and plunged deeper into the forest. The Founder's voices clamored in his mind, "Godric, this is our chance to test your combat training. Rowena, observe first. We need information. Helga, be careful. Your body is still young. Salazar, stealth and cunning now. No Gryffindor heroics." For once, Harry sided with Salazar. He moved silently through the underbrush, using techniques the Slytherin founder had taught him for moving unseen. Within minutes, he spotted them, 3 robed figures in a small clearing, arranging dark artifacts in a pattern. He crept closer, straining to hear their conversation. "Almost ready. When the boy comes through the forest, the trap will trigger. And if he doesn't come? He will. The compulsion charm on that Longbottom squib will ensure it. The Dark Lord's whispers guided me to the perfect ritual." Harry's blood ran cold. They'd somehow enchanted Neville to lure him here. But Neville was heading to McGonagall now, which meant. A twig snapped behind him. Harry whirled just as a 4th Death Eater emerged from concealment, wand aimed directly at him. Well. The bait led us straight to the prize. Harry didn't hesitate. With Godric's reflexes, he dropped and rolled as a stunning spell sailed overhead. His hand shot out, wandlessly summoning a fallen branch that smacked into the Death Eater's face. "He's here," the man shouted, blood streaming from his nose. The 3 others spun toward the commotion. Harry scrambled behind a tree as spells blasted chunks of bark around him. "Shield and counter," Godric urged. "No. Too many opponents." "Diversion and escape," Salazar countered. Harry chose a middle path. He pressed his palms against the earth, channeling Helga's magic into the soil. The ground beneath the Death Eaters erupted with thorny vines that wrapped around their ankles. While they struggled, Harry focused Rowena's spatial magic on the ritual items they'd arranged. With a twist of his hand, he scattered them violently in all directions, disrupting whatever dark purpose they'd intended. "Get the brat," screamed the leader, burning away the vines with fiery spells. Harry knew he couldn't fight 4 adult wizards in direct combat, no matter what knowledge he possessed. His body was simply too small, his magical core still developing. He turned to flee, and found 2 more Death Eaters blocking his path. "Nowhere to run, Potter," one sneered. "Our master wants what's in your head." Harry's mind raced through options. The Founder's voices suggested conflicting strategies. He needed a moment to think. He slammed his foot against the ground, channeling pure magic downward. The forest floor rippled outward like a stone dropped in water, knocking all 6 Death Eaters off their feet. In the moment of confusion, Harry pressed his advantage. He didn't run, instead, he darted toward the nearest fallen opponent and snatched the man's wand. With a Founder's wand technique but a child's voice, he shouted, "Expecto Patronum." A massive silver stag erupted from the stolen wand, his father's Patronus, known to him through inherited memory. To McGonagall and Dumbledore, he commanded. "Bring help." The Patronus bolted through the trees as Harry faced his attackers, now armed but still heavily outmatched. Impressive, the leader said, climbing to his feet. But futile. You can't hope to defeat all of us. I don't need to defeat you, Harry replied with confidence beyond his years. I just need to delay you. He flicked the wand in a complex pattern taught by Rowena. The tree canopy above them thickened suddenly, interweaving branches blocking the sky and casting the clearing into deep shadow. While the Death Eaters squinted in the abrupt darkness, Harry whispered to the stolen wand in Parseltongue, a trick of Salazar's that temporarily bent the wand's allegiance. Lumos Maxima Dispersus, he cast. Instead of a single bright light, dozens of glowing orbs shot in all directions, darting erratically through the darkened clearing like drunken fireflies. The disorienting effect bought Harry precious seconds to erect a shield charm around himself. The Death Eaters regrouped, firing increasingly dangerous curses at his shield. Harry felt it weakening under the assault. His young body couldn't sustain this level of magic much longer. Just as his shield began to fracture, a thunderous roar shook the clearing. Hagrid burst through the trees, crossbow raised. Behind him came McGonagall, Flitwick, and Dumbledore, their wands already slashing through complex attack patterns. The tide turned instantly. 2 Death Eaters fell to stunners before they could react. A third disapparated. The remaining 3 fought fiercely but were clearly outmatched. Harry, exhausted from magical exertion, slumped against a tree trunk. His job was done, the adults would handle the rest. The stolen wand slipped from his fingers as darkness crept into his vision. The last thing he saw before passing out was Dumbledore's concerned face bending over him. Absolutely reckless. McGonagall's voice pulled Harry back to consciousness. He could have been killed. But remarkably effective, came Dumbledore's calmer response. 6 Death Eaters, Minerva. Fully grown wizards held at bay by a 9-year-old boy. Harry blinked his eyes open. He lay in the hospital wing, with McGonagall, Dumbledore, and Madame Pomfrey standing nearby in heated discussion. He's awake, Pomfrey announced, moving to Harry's bedside. How do you feel, dear? Tired, Harry croaked. Really, really tired. McGonagall was beside him in an instant. You foolish, brave child. What were you thinking, confronting Death Eaters alone? Neville, Harry said suddenly, trying to sit up. Is he okay? They said they put a compulsion charm on him. Mr. Longbottom is fine, Dumbledore assured him. The charm was subtle, designed to make him suggest forest explorations over several days until you encountered their trap. Fortunately, your detection of the Death Eaters disrupted their plan. Harry relaxed back against his pillows. They wanted the Founder's knowledge. Said their master needed it. Dumbledore and McGonagall exchanged concerned glances. It seems Voldemort's followers grow more desperate in his absence, Dumbledore said quietly. This attempt suggests he's found some way to communicate with them, despite his disembodied state. Harry needs better protection, McGonagall insisted. The castle wards are strong, but clearly not impenetrable. Harry shook his head weakly. Not just better protection. Better preparation. He looked directly at Dumbledore. I need a wand, Professor. My own wand. I can't keep relying on wandless magic, it drains me too quickly. You're far too young, age is irrelevant, Harry interrupted. You saw what happened today. They're coming for me, and next time might be worse. Dumbledore sighed deeply. You're right, of course. Though I fear Ollivander may have a conniption when I bring a 9-year-old for a wand. Not Ollivander, Harry said firmly. The Founders had their own wand maker. His descendant still practices, though in seclusion. They say he's the one who must make my wand. And where do we find this wand maker? McGonagall asked skeptically. In the valley below Hogwarts. In a cave beneath the waterfall. Harry's eyes briefly shimmered with Ravenclaw blue. His name is Thorn Wyvernwood, and he's been expecting us. The cave behind the waterfall seemed unremarkable at first glance, damp stone walls, the constant rush of water echoing from the entrance. But as they ventured deeper, the space transformed. Elaborate wooden shelving lined the walls, filled with jars of mysterious substances. Workbenches covered in tools stood in the center of the chamber, illuminated by floating orbs of gentle light. Thorn Wyvernwood looked nothing like Harry expected. Rather than an ancient, wizened craftsman, they found a woman in her 40s with streaks of silver in her dark hair and burn scars covering her right arm. "So," she said, looking up from her work as they entered, "the Founder's heir arrives at last." Her eyes, sharp and assessing, fixed on Harry. "Younger than I expected." "You knew we were coming?" McGonagall asked, hand hovering near her wand. "My family has waited for this moment for 10 generations, Wyvernwood replied. "Ever since Rowena herself came to my ancestor with a prophecy and a commission." She approached Harry without ceremony. "Let me see your hands, boy." Harry extended both hands without hesitation. The wand-maker took them in her scarred ones, turning them over and studying his palms intently. "Interesting," she murmured. "The physical vessel is young, but the magical imprints are ancient." She released him and moved to a cabinet. "I've prepared components for this wand my entire life, as did my mother before me, and hers before her." From the cabinet, she removed 4 small boxes, each bearing a founder's symbol. Core elements preserved through the centuries. Freely given by the founders themselves before their deaths, entrusted to my bloodline until the vessel appeared. Dumbledore watched with scholarly fascination. "A wand with multiple cores? That contradicts everything modern wand lore teaches." "Modern wand lore is limited by modern understanding," Wyvernwood replied dismissively. She opened the boxes one by one. From Gryffindor's box, a brilliant red phoenix feather. From Hufflepuff's, a strand of golden unicorn hair. From Ravenclaw's, a shimmering silver thread that seemed neither liquid nor solid. From Slytherin's, a scale that shifted between emerald and black. "A feather from Godric's phoenix companion," Wyvernwood explained. "Hair from Helga's unicorn familiar. A memory strand from Rowena's own mind. A scale from Salazar's basilisk guardian, freely given, not taken in violence." She arranged the 4 components on her workbench. "And now for the wood." She studied Harry again. "No single wood will serve. The wand must represent all aspects in balance." From various shelves, she selected 4 different woods: oak, rowan, elm, and ebony. "The crafting will take 3 days. Return then for the binding ceremony." "Binding ceremony?" McGonagall questioned. "The wand must be bound to all 5 souls it will serve, the 4 founders and the boy who carries them." Wyvernwood's expression softened slightly. "It will not be pleasant, child. Such binding rarely is." Harry nodded solemnly. "I understand. We'll return in 3 days." As they turned to leave, Wyvernwood called after them. "Potter. One more thing." Harry looked back. "When the darkness comes, the faceless one, remember that what was 5 must become 1. Division is death." Harry's breath caught. "You know about the Devourer?" "I know only what Rowena showed my ancestor," the wand-maker replied. "A shadow that consumes magic itself. The reason they preserved pieces of themselves." Her eyes bored into his. "Don't fail them, boy. The world won't survive it." 3 days later, Harry stood alone in the center of Wyvernwood's cave. McGonagall and Dumbledore waited outside, excluded from the ritual by ancient protocol. The cave had been transformed. Runes covered the floor in concentric circles, glowing softly with magical energy. 4 pedestals marked the cardinal directions, each bearing items representing a founder: a small sword, a cup, a diadem, and a locket. "Are you prepared?" Wyvernwood asked, now dressed in ceremonial robes. Harry nodded. His palms were sweaty, his heart racing, but he showed no hesitation. What do I do? Stand in the center circle. When I present the wand, grasp it with both hands and don't let go, no matter what happens. She moved to a small altar where the newly created wand lay. It was beautiful, twisted strands of the four woods spiraling together, forming a perfect balance of colors and textures. The handle was inlaid with tiny symbols representing each founder. Wyvernwood raised the wand above her head and began chanting in a language even Harry's founder's knowledge couldn't fully translate, older than Latin, older perhaps than recorded history. The runes brightened. The air thickened. Harry felt the founder's presences stirring within him, rising closer to the surface than ever before. Wyvernwood approached, holding the wand horizontally on her palms. Grasp the wand, heir of Hogwarts. Harry reached out and took it with both hands. Pain exploded through his body, not external but internal, as if something were being pulled from deep within him. The founder's essences surged forward, drawn to the wand that contained pieces of their original magical signatures. Four distinct colored lights emerged from Harry's chest, red, yellow, blue, and green, swirling around him in a chaotic storm before flowing into the wand. The wood grew hot in his hands, nearly burning, but he gripped it tighter, teeth clenched against the pain. Images flashed before his eyes faster than he could process, Godric battling giants, Helga healing victims of a plague, Rowena constructing complex magical theories, Salazar discovering the chamber deep beneath the lake. Their memories, their powers, their very essences connected with the wand, creating a conduit between past and present. With a final surge of magic that lit the entire cave blindingly bright, the ritual completed. Harry fell to his knees, gasping, the wand still clutched in his trembling hands. It felt right, perfectly balanced, an extension of himself. "It is done," Wyvernwood said, her own voice weary. "The founder's wand is awakened and bound." Harry raised the wand. Multicolored sparks showered from its tip, each representing a different founder's magic, yet working in perfect harmony. "Four strands of power," Wyvernwood observed. "Plus your own native magic as the binding agent. A wand of unprecedented potential." She fixed him with a severe look. "Use it wisely, Potter. Such power demands responsibility." Harry nodded, still trying to catch his breath. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," the wandmaker replied grimly. "That wand makes you both powerful and a target. The darkness will sense it awakening." She gestured to the cave entrance. "Now go. My family's 900-year obligation is fulfilled at last." Outside, McGonagall gasped when she saw Harry's pale, exhausted face. "What happened in there?" Harry held up the wand, which continued to emit occasional sparks of changing colors. "I met them," he said simply. "All four founders, face to face, just for a moment. And now we're truly connected." Dumbledore studied the wand with undisguised fascination. "May I?" Harry hesitated, then extended the wand handle first. "Just for a moment. They say it won't work properly for anyone else." The headmaster took the wand carefully. The moment it left Harry's hand, the wood dulled noticeably, the vibrant colors fading to mundane brown. When Dumbledore attempted a simple lumos, nothing happened. "Extraordinary," he murmured, quickly returning it. The wand immediately reawakened in Harry's grip, colors flowing through the twisted woods once more. A wand that recognizes not just its wizard, but the multiple magical signatures within that wizard. "It feels." Harry searched for words. "Complete. Like a piece of me that was missing." McGonagall placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Let's get you back to the castle. You look ready to collapse." As they walked away from the waterfall, none of them noticed the water momentarily turning black before clearing again, as if some dark essence had passed through it and continued downstream. The next 2 years passed in intensive training. With his unique wand, Harry's magical abilities expanded exponentially. He learned to channel each founder's specialties more precisely, switching between their magical styles as needed. From Godric, combat spells, protective enchantments, and leadership qualities. From Helga, healing magic, earth manipulation, and empathic abilities. From Rowena, knowledge spells, mind arts, and spatial manipulation. From Salazar, subtle magic, parseltongue applications, and strategic thinking. By his 11th birthday, Harry had achieved magical proficiency equivalent to a talented fifth-year student, though his knowledge base far exceeded even Newt levels in many subjects. Yet Dumbledore and McGonagall ensured he maintained as normal a childhood as possible. He still played Quidditch with Ron, helped Neville with his plants, and discussed strange creatures with Luna. He celebrated birthdays, received Christmas presents, and occasionally got into trouble for typical boyish mischief. The morning his Hogwarts letter arrived, Harry sat at breakfast in McGonagall's quarters, excitement making it difficult to eat. "It's just a formality," McGonagall reminded him, sliding the envelope across the table. "You've lived at Hogwarts for 6 years already." "I know," Harry replied, carefully breaking the wax seal. "But this makes it official. I'll finally be a proper student, not just the weird kid living with a professor." She smiled fondly. "You've never been just a weird kid, Harry." "Tell that to Snape," he muttered, scanning his acceptance letter with a grin. McGonagall's lips thinned. "Professor Snape's attitude is complicated. Salazar says it's not complicated at all. He's just bitter about my dad and conflicted about my mom." "That's quite enough psychoanalysis of your future professor," McGonagall said primly. "Now, since you already have your wand and most of your books, shall we visit Diagon Alley for your remaining supplies next week?" Harry nodded eagerly. "Can we meet up with Ron and his family? And maybe Neville?" "I've already arranged it," she assured him. "Mrs. Weasley was quite insistent that we coordinate our shopping trips." Harry beamed. Despite all the extraordinary aspects of his life, in many ways, he remained a normal boy looking forward to attending school with his friends. But later that night, alone in his room, the Founders' voices reminded him that his Hogwarts experience would be anything but normal. "The castle will recognize you as heir," Godric's voice murmured. "Its deepest magic will respond to your presence. The other students may fear what they don't understand," Helga warned. "Compassion must temper power. Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous," Rowena added. "Choose carefully what you reveal. And watch for enemies within the walls," Salazar finished. "Not all threats announce themselves with dark marks." Harry stared up at his ceiling, a mix of excitement and apprehension churning in his stomach. Just once, he whispered to the empty room, "I'd like things to be simple." But simplicity wasn't in his destiny, as the Founder's soft laughter in his mind confirmed. Platform 9 3/4 bustled with activity as Harry pushed his trunk-laden cart alongside Ron Weasley. McGonagall had arranged to meet them here rather than traveling with Harry, understanding his desire to board the train like any other student. "This is brilliant!" Ron exclaimed, eyes wide as he took in the Hogwarts Express. "Can't believe you're finally coming to school properly." Harry grinned. Though Ron had visited him at Hogwarts many times, this shared experience felt different, a proper beginning. "Harry!" "Ron!" Neville called, waving from nearby where his grandmother stood rigidly beside him. As the boys converged, Augusta Longbottom eyed Harry with her typical assessment. "Mr. Potter. I trust you're prepared for the academic year?" "Yes, ma'am," Harry replied politely. He'd learned that Ron's parents responded best to his childish enthusiasm, while Neville's grandmother preferred respectful formality. "Humph. See that you continue providing a good influence on my grandson. His confidence has improved remarkably since your friendship began." Neville blushed furiously as the Weasley family joined their group, creating a chaotic whirlwind of introductions, hugs, and last-minute advice. Through it all, Harry noticed people pointing and whispering. Some recognized him as the boy who lived. Others, particularly older magical families, seemed aware of his unique status as the Founder's heir, a title that had gradually leaked into public knowledge despite Dumbledore's efforts at discretion. Just ignore them, Hermione Granger advised, appearing suddenly beside their group. Harry had met her briefly during a supervised Diagon Alley visit. People always stare at celebrities. I'm not a celebrity, Harry objected automatically. Hermione raised an eyebrow. You defeated a Dark Lord as a baby and apparently contained the essences of all 4 Hogwarts founders. That qualifies as celebrity status. She's got you there, mate, Ron snickered. The train whistle blew. After final goodbyes to the adults, the 4 children boarded together, finding an empty compartment near the middle of the train. As the Hogwarts Express pulled from the station, Harry felt a curious mixture of emotions. He was leaving nothing behind. Hogwarts had been his home for years, yet this journey symbolized a new chapter. So, Hermione began once they'd settled, I've read everything I could find about the founders, but the books disagree about their personalities and abilities. Since you've got them in your head, what are they really like? Ron groaned. Seriously? We haven't even left London and you're starting with magical history. It's okay, Harry laughed. I'm used to it. He considered Hermione's question. They're complex. More human than the legends make them seem. Godric isn't just brave, he's stubborn and sometimes reckless, but also incredibly loyal. Helga isn't simply kind, she's fierce about protecting people and surprisingly devious when necessary. Rowena isn't only intelligent, she's creative and intuitive, not just logical. And Salazar isn't dark or evil, he's cautious, strategic, and deeply protective of magical culture. Do they talk to you all the time? Neville asked curiously. Less now than when they first awakened, Harry explained. They've integrated more with my consciousness. Sometimes they're distinct voices with opinions, other times more like instincts or memories I can access. Wicked, Ron said. So which house will you be in? You've got all 4 in you. Harry shrugged. The Sorting Hat and I will have to figure that out. It might be complicated. The compartment door slid open, revealing Draco Malfoy flanked by Crabbe and Goyle. Harry had never met him personally but recognized him from descriptions. Is it true? Malfoy demanded without preamble. You're the Founder's heir. Harry sighed. Hello to you too. And yes, though that's not how I'd introduce myself. Malfoy's eyes gleamed with interest. So you have Slytherin's power too? You can speak Parseltongue. Among other things, Harry confirmed cautiously. Then you understand what Slytherin truly stood for, Malfoy pressed. Magical purity and tradition. You should associate with the right sort of wizards. He cast dismissive glances at the others in the compartment. Harry felt Salazar's essence stir irritably within him. Actually, he said calmly, Salazar was primarily concerned with magical safety during an era when Muggles were burning witches. His views were more nuanced than most histories record. Malfoy frowned. But, and if you're suggesting my friends aren't the right sort, Harry continued, I should mention that Godric values Ron's courage, Rowena appreciates Hermione's intellect, and Helga admires Neville's loyalty. So really, they match the Founder's values perfectly. The blonde boy seemed temporarily speechless. You're welcome to join us, Harry added, channeling Helga's inclusivity. But not if you're going to insult my friends. Malfoy hesitated, clearly torn between his prejudices and the opportunity to associate with a potentially powerful ally. Eventually, he muttered, perhaps another time, and withdrew, his bookends following. That was brilliant, Ron said once they'd gone. Hermione looked thoughtful. Is it true what you said about Slytherin's views being misrepresented? Harry nodded. History simplifies complex people. Salazar made mistakes and had flaws, but he wasn't the one-dimensional villain some make him out to be. He shrugged. None of the Founders were perfect. That's one of the first things I learned when their memories started emerging. The conversation shifted to lighter topics as the journey continued. Harry bought treats for everyone from the trolley, they played Exploding Snap, and speculated about their classes. For hours, Harry felt like any other excited first-year heading to Hogwarts for the first time. But as the castle came into view in the distance, the Founder's presences stirred more actively within him. Their anticipation mingled with his own, creating a strange resonance that made his wand warm in its holster. "Home," they whispered together. "We have returned home at last. Fur's years. Fur's years over here." Hagrid's familiar voice boomed across Hogsmeade Station. Harry grinned at the half-giant, who winked at him before continuing to gather the new students. "Y'all get your Fur's sight Hogwarts in a sec," Hagrid called as he led them toward the lake, "just round this bend here." There was a collective, "Oh," as the narrow path opened onto the shore of the Black Lake, the castle rising majestically on the far side, windows sparkling against the starry sky. Harry had seen Hogwarts countless times, of course, but never from this approach. Through the Founder's memories, he recognized how the castle was positioned to create this specific magical first impression. "Rowena's idea," Godric's voice murmured within him. "She calculated the exact angle for maximum awe. No more than 4 to a boat." Hagrid called, pointing to the fleet of small boats waiting by the shore. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville claimed one together. As their boat glided silently across the lake, Harry felt a curious vibration through the water, almost like a greeting. He trailed his fingers in the cool surface, and the water briefly illuminated with tiny points of light that followed his touch. Hermione gasped. "How are you doing that?" "I'm not sure I am," Harry replied honestly. "I think the lake is recognizing me." Neville looked nervous. "Is that normal?" "For him?" "Probably," Ron said pragmatically. They approached the underground harbor, where everyone clambered onto rocks and pebbles. Hagrid led them up a passageway to emerge on smooth, damp grass right in the shadow of the castle. Up the stone steps they went, crowding around the huge oak front door. Hagrid raised his gigantic fist and knocked 3 times. The door swung open immediately to reveal Professor McGonagall in her emerald green robes, looking every inch the stern deputy headmistress. Her eyes found Harry briefly, a small smile flickering across her features before her professional mask returned. "The Fur's years, Professor McGonagall," Hagrid announced. "Thank you, Hagrid. I will take them from here." She pulled the door wide, revealing the familiar entrance hall with its flaming torches and magnificent marble staircase. But something unexpected happened as Harry crossed the threshold. The torches blazed higher, burning with multicolored flames for a brief moment before returning to normal. Several students murmured in confusion. McGonagall cleared her throat to regain attention, though Harry caught her concerned glance in his direction. She led them across the flagged stone floor to a small, empty chamber off the hall. As the first years crowded in, McGonagall delivered her standard welcome speech about houses, points, and the impending sorting ceremony. "I shall return when we are ready for you," she finished. "Please wait quietly." After she left, excited chatter broke out among the students. Harry noticed several staring at him with undisguised curiosity. "Is it really true what they're saying on the train?" a sandy-haired boy Harry recognized as Seamus Finnegan asked. "You've got the Founder's souls inside you?" Before Harry could answer, gasps rippled through the group as about 20 ghosts streamed through the back wall. They glided across the room, arguing among themselves until they noticed the first years. "New students," said the fat friar, beaming. "About to be sorted, I suppose." Then his ghostly eyes found Harry, and he froze mid-air. Merciful heavens! It's true. The other ghosts turned. Their reactions were immediate and dramatic. The Grey Lady clasped her translucent hands to her mouth. The Bloody Baron's perpetual scowl transformed into shock. Nearly headless Nick performed a deep, courtly bow. "My lords and ladies," Nick addressed Harry formally. "After all these centuries." The first years stared in bewilderment as every ghost in the chamber bowed or curtsied to Harry, who shifted uncomfortably under the attention. Hello," he said awkwardly. "Please, you don't have to do that." But we must show proper respect to the founder's heir, the Grey Lady insisted, her voice more animated than any current Hogwarts student had ever heard it. Mother, she added in a whisper that somehow everyone heard. Before Harry could respond, McGonagall returned. Move along now, she told the ghosts firmly. The sorting ceremony's about to start. The ghosts drifted reluctantly away, still casting reverent glances at Harry. Form a line, McGonagall instructed the first years, and follow me. Harry felt his heart pounding as they walked out of the chamber, back across the hall, and through the double doors into the great hall. Despite having been in this room countless times, something felt different tonight. The magic of the castle seemed more alive, more responsive to his presence. Thousands of candles floating above the 4 long tables burned brighter as he passed. The enchanted ceiling, showing the starry night sky, rippled slightly. At the high table, Dumbledore watched with keen interest, while Snape's expression darkened to a thunderous glower. McGonagall silently placed a 4-legged stool in front of the first years and set the sorting hat upon it. Harry smiled at his old friend. For a moment, the patched, frayed hat remained still, then a rip near the brim opened wide like a mouth, and the hat began to sing, "In times of old when I was new, and Hogwarts barely started, the founders 4 who made me true, shared vision, though soon parted. Bold Gryffindor from Wild Moor, fair Ravenclaw from Glen, sweet Hufflepuff from Valley Broad, shrewd Slytherin from Fun. They built this school with magic deep, each valued different traits, in students they desired to keep, and through their houses' gates. But now returns a miracle, a child of prophecy born, the founders 4 within one soul, to face what comes with dawn. So try me on, young wizards all, I'll sort you where you belong, but one among you stands apart, the heir for whom I long. For centuries I've waited here, to witness this return, the 4 who are one now appear, as darkness we discern. So step up brave, step up true, I'll place you with your kind, but know that change comes swiftly now, with him who is 4 combined." The hall erupted in whispers as the hat became still again. This was clearly not the traditional sorting song. All eyes darted between the hat and Harry, who stared steadfastly at his shoes, wishing he could disappear. Professor McGonagall stepped forward with a long roll of parchment. "When I call your name, you will put on the hat and sit on the stool to be sorted," she announced, attempting to restore normality. "Abbott, Hannah." The sorting proceeded traditionally after that, with each student being assigned to their house amid cheers from the appropriate table. Harry noticed that the hat spent varying amounts of time on different students, almost instantly shouting, "Slytherin," for Malfoy, while deliberating longer with others. "Granger, Hermione." "Gryffindor." "Longbottom, Neville." After nearly a full minute, "Gryffindor." The sorting continued until finally, "Potter, Harry." As Harry stepped forward, whispers suddenly broke out again all over the hall. "Potter, did she say? The Harry Potter? The founder's heir." The last thing Harry saw before the hat dropped over his eyes was the hall full of people craning to get a good look at him. Then darkness. "Well, well, well," said the hat's familiar voice in his ear. "We meet again, though under more formal circumstances this time." "Hello, old friend," Harry thought. "Ah, they've integrated further since our last conversation. Excellent progress." The hat seemed pleased. "Now, where to put you? That is the question. You tell me," Harry thought. "You know them better than anyone." "Indeed I do. I see Godric's courage, Rowena's intellect, Helga's loyalty, and Salazar's ambition, all in equal measure within you. But you are not merely their vessel, you are Harry Potter, with your own distinct personality and choices." The hat fell silent for a moment, considering. "Perhaps I should let them weigh in," it suggested. Harry felt the founder's presences stir more distinctly. "Gryffindor, obviously," Godric's voice asserted. "The boy has faced death and darkness with unflinching courage." "Ravenclaw would nurture his intellectual growth," Rowena countered. "He has centuries of knowledge to process and understand." Hufflepuff would provide the supportive environment he needs, Helga insisted. And help him maintain his humanity amidst such power. Slytherin would hone his strategic abilities, Salazar added. Essential for the challenges ahead. Their voices overlapped, creating a mental cacophony that made Harry wince. Interesting, the Hat mused. Even after a millennium, they still cannot agree. But this decision isn't truly theirs to make, it's yours, Harry Potter. You are the one who must live with it. Harry thought carefully. I need all their strengths for what's coming. I can't choose just one aspect and neglect the others. The Hat seemed to chuckle. A wise answer. In that case, I believe unprecedented circumstances call for unprecedented solutions. Everyone in the Great Hall had started to murmur anxiously. Harry had been under the Hat for nearly 5 minutes now, approaching what would be a hat stall. Suddenly, the Hat straightened on Harry's head and shouted for all to hear, "Founder's heir." Complete silence fell over the Great Hall. McGonagall stood frozen, parchment in hand. Dumbledore leaned forward in his golden chair, eyes wide with surprise. The Hat continued speaking. For the first time in Hogwarts history, I cannot place this student in a single house. Harry Potter carries the essence of all 4 founders and belongs equally to Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. He shall have the right to access all common rooms, earn and lose points for any house, and serve as a bridge between the 4. More silence, then a single person began to clap, Dumbledore. Slowly, others joined in until most of the hall was applauding, though with varying degrees of enthusiasm and confusion. Where do I sit? Harry whispered as McGonagall removed the hat. An excellent question, Mr. Potter, she replied, looking somewhat flustered. With a wave of her wand, she conjured a small round table position between the 4 house tables, with a single chair. Perhaps here, for tonight at least. Harry walked somewhat self-consciously to the special table, aware of every eye following him. As he sat, the blank tablecloth beneath his hands shimmered and split into 4 colored quadrants, red, yellow, blue, and green, each bearing the crest of one Hogwarts house. The spectacle continued as his plain black robes transformed as well, the edges now trimmed with all 4 house colors in a harmonious pattern. The Hogwarts crest on his chest enlarged slightly, with all 4 house animals more prominently displayed. Ron, sorted into Gryffindor moments later, shot Harry a sympathetic look mixed with awe as he joined his house table. When the last student, Zabini, Blaise, was sorted into Slytherin, Dumbledore rose to his feet. Welcome, he said. Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our banquet, I would like to say a few words about the unprecedented sorting we have just witnessed. The hall fell silent again. Harry Potter's unique situation has been known to the staff for some years now. His classification as Founder's Heir is not merely honorary but reflects the magical reality that he carries aspects of all 4 Hogwarts founders within him. I ask that you treat him with the same respect and friendship you would show any fellow student. He beamed around the room. That said, I believe unusual times call for unusual measures of celebration. Let the feast begin. The golden plates and goblets filled with food and drink. Harry, at his isolated table, felt momentarily bereft until Hermione stood up from the Gryffindor table, plate in hand, and marched deliberately to join him. Ron followed seconds later, and then Neville. From Ravenclaw, Luna Lovegood, whom Harry had met previously, drifted over with a dreamy smile. This is much nicer, Hermione declared, transfiguring her chair slightly to match the special table. Though technically I suppose we're breaking rules about seating arrangements. I think tonight's proven that rules are flexible, Harry replied gratefully. Doesn't this mean you get your own dormitory too? Ron asked through a mouthful of roast chicken. I hadn't thought about that, Harry admitted. I've been living in quarters near McGonagall's for years. His pondering was interrupted when the Gryffindor ghost, nearly headless Nick, drifted over to their table and bowed deeply again. My lords and ladies, if I may, he addressed Harry formally. The castle ghosts wish to formally pledge our service to the founder's heir. We have awaited this day for centuries. Harry looked uncomfortable. That's really not necessary, Sir Nicholas. I'm just Harry. You are far more than just Harry, young sir, Nick insisted. You carry the essences of our creators, our patrons. The Grey Lady herself recognizes her mother's presence within you. Please tell everyone I appreciate the respect, Harry said carefully, but I'd rather not be treated differently. I'm still learning who I am with all of them inside me. Nick looked slightly disappointed but nodded. As you wish. But know that we are at your disposal should you require our assistance. He bowed again before floating away. This is weird, Harry muttered to his friends. Brilliantly weird, Ron corrected, helping himself to more potatoes. As the feast progressed, students from other houses occasionally glanced over at Harry's table with expressions ranging from curiosity to awe to suspicion. From the Slytherin table, Malfoy watched with calculation in his eyes, while the Weasley twins from Gryffindor gave enthusiastic thumbs up. When the desserts finally disappeared and Dumbledore gave his start-of-term notices, including a curious warning about the third-floor corridor, the headmaster concluded with an unexpected announcement. One final note regarding our unique situation this year. The Founder's Tower, sealed for centuries, has reopened itself to accommodate Mr. Potter. Located at the junction where all 4 house wings meet, it will serve as his dormitory and study area. House prefects will be provided with the means to contact Mr. Potter should members of their houses wish to seek his counsel. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the hall. Even Harry looked startled, this was news to him. And now, bedtime. Off you trot. As students began filing out, Professor McGonagall approached Harry's table. If you'll come with me, Mr. Potter, I'll show you to your new accommodation. It seems the castle has taken matters into its own hands regarding your housing arrangements. Harry bid goodnight to his friends, promising to see them at breakfast, and followed McGonagall through the thinning crowds. Instead of heading toward her quarters where he had lived for years, she led him to a previously unused junction where corridors branching toward the 4 house areas met. Where there had once been only a blank wall with a painting of the Hogwarts grounds, a spiral staircase now curved upward into a tower Harry had never noticed before, or perhaps that hadn't existed until now. The Founder's Tower, McGonagall explained, looking somewhat amazed herself. According to Hogwarts, a history, it appeared only during times when the 4 houses needed to work together. It hasn't been seen since the castle was constructed. They climbed the staircase together, emerging into a circular room that took Harry's breath away. 4 large windows faced the directions of each house, and the space was decorated in a harmonious blend of all 4 house colors. A large 4-poster bed stood against one wall, while bookshelves, a desk, comfortable seating, and a private study area filled the remaining space. Your trunk has already been brought up, McGonagall noted, gesturing to where it sat at the foot of the bed. Though I notice the castle has provided much more than basic accommodations. Indeed, the tower room appeared fully stocked with books, magical instruments, and personal items, some that Harry recognized from the Founder's vault at Gringotts, others that seemed created specifically for him. This is... Harry struggled for words. Overwhelming. McGonagall suggested gently. He nodded. A bit. I knew things would be different once I became an official student, but I didn't expect all this. He gestured around the tower. The castle recognizes you, Harry. Not just as a student, but as the heir of its creators. She placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. But remember, beneath all this, you are still the same boy who's been in my care these past 6 years. Don't let titles and special accommodations change that. Harry smiled gratefully. I won't, Professor. Or, should I still call you Aunt Minerva in private? Her stern expression softened. I think Professor is appropriate during school hours, but yes, I would be disappointed if our relationship changed entirely due to formalities. Never, Harry assured her. You're the closest thing to family I've ever had. McGonagall's eyes grew suspiciously bright. She cleared her throat briskly. Yes, well. Get some rest, Harry. Your first day of classes tomorrow will be eventful enough without adding exhaustion to the mix. After she left, Harry explored his new quarters more thoroughly. The Founders' presences felt stronger here, more defined, as if the tower itself amplified their connection. Home again, Godric's voice murmured. A sanctuary for learning, Rowena approved. A place of comfort and reflection, Helga added. And strategic advantage, Salazar concluded pragmatically. Harry moved to one of the windows, looking out over the moonlit grounds. The view was spectacular. He could see the lake, the forest, the Quidditch pitch, all from different windows. So this is really happening, he said aloud to the empty room. I'm officially a Hogwarts student now. The Founder's heir. He still wasn't entirely sure what that meant for his future, but as he prepared for bed, Harry felt a curious sense of rightness. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Voldemort, the mysterious devourer from the Founder's memories, or simply navigating life as a very unusual student, he would face them with the wisdom of the past and the support of his friends. And for tonight at least, that was enough. Chapter 3, The Castle Awakens. Harry woke to sunlight streaming through his tower windows and the strange sensation of stone humming beneath him. Not metaphorically, the castle was literally vibrating with a gentle rhythm that pulsed through his four-poster bed. Okay, that's new, he muttered, sitting up and rubbing his eyes. The humming stopped immediately. Harry pressed his palm against the wall beside his bed. Hello. Hogwarts. The stone warmed beneath his touch. Not a voice exactly, but a distinct impression formed in his mind. Welcome. Heir. Home. Whoa. Harry pulled his hand back, startled. The castle's actually talking to me. We built her to be semi-sentient, Rowena's voice explained in his head. After a millennium of absorbing ambient magic, she's developed beyond even our original intentions. Harry placed his hand back on the wall. Can you show me where my first class is today? A shimmering map appeared on the stone surface, highlighting a path from the tower to the Transfiguration classroom. Brilliant. Thank you. The wall warmed again in acknowledgement before returning to normal. Harry grinned and hopped out of bed. Being the Founder's heir definitely had its perks. 30 minutes later, showered and dressed in robes that still displayed all four house colors, Harry made his way to the Great Hall for breakfast. He paused at the entrance, suddenly uncertain. Should he return to his special table from last night, or... Harry. Ron waved from the Gryffindor table. Over here. Decision made, Harry joined his friend, sliding onto the bench beside him. Hermione sat across from them, already buried in a textbook while absently buttering toast. Morning, Harry greeted them. Is it okay if I sit here? The rules seemed fuzzy. Dumbledore announced at the end of breakfast yesterday that you can sit at any house table you want, Hermione said, looking up from her reading. Apparently that's one of your heir privileges. Mate, your tower sounds wicked, Ron said, piling sausages onto Harry's plate without asking. Fred and George are already plotting how to sneak in. Harry laughed. They're welcome to visit normally. I think the castle would let me decide who enters. Speaking of the castle, Hermione leaned forward eagerly, is it true you can communicate with it? Hogwarts, a history mentions the Founders embedding consciousness into the stones, but it's supposed to be more of an imprint than actual sentience. It's definitely sentient, Harry confirmed. Showed me a map to Transfiguration this morning when I asked. Hermione's eyes widened. That's extraordinary. Do you think, schedules? McGonagall interrupted, appearing behind them with a stack of parchment. She handed Ron and Hermione standard Gryffindor timetables, then presented Harry with a unique multicolored one. Mr. Potter, as discussed, you'll primarily follow Gryffindor's schedule but with certain substitutions for advanced study. Harry examined his timetable. Most classes matched his friends, but several periods each week were marked independent study or special instruction. "Thanks, Professor," he said. "When do we start?" "Transfiguration with the Gryffindors and Hufflepuffs after breakfast," she replied crisply. "Do try not to show off too much on your first day." Her stern expression softened imperceptibly before she moved along the table. Harry suspected she was having difficulty transitioning from guardian to professor in public. "Show off?" Ron questioned through a mouthful of eggs. Harry shrugged. "I've been doing transfiguration with her for years. She's worried I'll make the lesson too obvious." "You could help me if I get stuck though, right?" Ron asked hopefully. "Ronald." Hermione looked scandalized. "That would be cheating." Their friendly bickering carried them through breakfast and toward their first class. As they walked, Harry noticed students from all houses watching him with varying expressions: curiosity, awe, suspicion, and in some cases, outright hostility. "They'll get used to you," Hermione assured him quietly. "It's just unusual." "Story of my life," Harry replied with a half-smile. Transfiguration began predictably. McGonagall transformed her desk into a pig and back, impressing the first years. She then launched into a lecture about transfiguration theory before distributing matches for everyone to try turning into needles. Harry deliberately held back, watching his classmates struggle. He could have transformed the match instantly, even wandlessly if he wanted to show off, but something told him that wouldn't help him make friends. After 15 minutes of pretending to have difficulty, he allowed a partial transformation, turning his match silver but leaving it wooden. "Mr. Potter," McGonagall called, noticing his restraint. "Perhaps you could demonstrate the complete transformation for your classmates?" Put on the spot, Harry nodded. He pointed his unique Founderwood wand at the match and performed the transformation perfectly. The match became a perfect needle, complete with an eye and sharp point. "Well done," McGonagall acknowledged. 5 points too. She paused, suddenly uncertain. "Gryffindor," Harry suggested with a grin. "Since I'm sitting with them today." "Very well. 5 points to Gryffindor." She addressed the class. "Mr. Potter has certain advantages in transfiguration, but that doesn't mean the rest of you cannot achieve similar results with practice." By the end of class, only Hermione had managed a partial transformation like Harry's initial attempt. As they gathered their books, McGonagall called, "Mr. Potter, a moment please." "I'll catch up," Harry told his friends. Once they were alone, McGonagall's posture relaxed slightly. "That was well handled, Harry. Your restraint shows maturity." "Thanks. I figured turning it into a golden needle that sings the school song might be a bit much for day one." She almost smiled. "Indeed. How are you finding the transition to student life?" "It's weird being called Mr. Potter by you," he admitted. "But otherwise okay. The castle's been helpful, literally. It's communicating with me." McGonagall's eyebrows rose. "In what way?" "Nothing verbal yet. More like impressions, feelings, and some visual responses. It showed me a map this morning." "Fascinating. Be sure to document these interactions for the headmaster." "And Harry," she hesitated. "Do be careful about which castle secrets you share publicly. Some were hidden for good reason." Harry nodded seriously. "The founders have opinions about that too. Don't worry, I'm not planning to lead tours through Salazar's chamber or anything. See that you don't." She glanced at the clock. "You should hurry to Charms now. Professor Flitwick will be insufferable if I make his favorite student late." By lunchtime, word had spread about Harry's transfiguration prowess. As he entered the Great Hall, he made a deliberate choice to approach the Ravenclaw table, where he spotted Luna sitting somewhat isolated from her housemates. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. Luna looked up with her characteristic dreamy smile. "The Raxperts around you have beautiful colors today, Harry." All four founders' colors swirling together. Harry sat beside her, used to Luna's unique perceptions. Sometimes he wondered if she could actually see magical auras that others couldn't. "How's your first day going?" "Fascinating. Though some of my housemates think I'm strange." She said this matter-of-factly, without self-pity. "Their loss," Harry replied, loading his plate. "Anyone who doesn't appreciate uniqueness is missing out." A few older Ravenclaws nearby were openly staring at Harry's presence at their table. "Potter," one finally said, "is it true you have Rowena Ravenclaw's memories? Can you access her knowledge?" Harry chewed thoughtfully before answering. "Some of it. Her essence is integrating gradually so my brain doesn't overload. But yes, I have connections to her magical theory and research." The girl looked skeptical. "Prove it. What was Ravenclaw's greatest unfinished work?" "Penelope," another Ravenclaw hissed, "you can't just demand." "It's okay," Harry interrupted. "Her interdimensional gateway theory. She was developing a method to peer into other magical realities without physically crossing over. The calculations still exist in her private journals, though they're written in a personal code that looks like astronomical notations to anyone else." Penelope Clearwater's mouth fell open. Several nearby Ravenclaws had stopped eating to listen. But her most treasured project, Harry continued, was actually her work on memory preservation, which ultimately contributed to the magic that allows pieces of the founders to exist within me now. A heavy silence fell over that section of the table. "That's not in any book," an older boy finally said. "No," Harry agreed. "It wouldn't be." The conversation shifted after that, with Ravenclaws hesitantly asking questions about historical magical theory. Harry answered what he could, admitted when founder knowledge hadn't surfaced yet, and gradually, the atmosphere relaxed. By dessert, he was engaged in a spirited debate about arithmetic principles with a third year, while Luna hummed contentedly beside him, crafting tiny origami creatures from her napkin. Harry spent the next day at the Hufflepuff table with Hannah Abbott and Susan Bones, whom he'd met during herbology. The day after, he joined the Slytherin table beside Blaise Zabini, who'd approached him after potions with intelligent questions about brewing techniques. Each house reacted differently to his presence. Gryffindors treated him with boisterous familiarity. Ravenclaws peppered him with academic questions. Hufflepuffs were initially shy but quickly warmed to his approachable manner. Slytherins remained guarded, watching him with calculation, though a few like Blaise and Daphne Greengrass engaged genuinely. By the end of his first week, Harry had established connections in every house, exactly as he'd hoped. The founders had emphasized the importance of unity, and he was determined to bridge the house divides that had grown too rigid over centuries. Friday evening found him in his tower, hosting an impromptu study group with an intentionally diverse mix: Ron and Hermione from Gryffindor, Luna from Ravenclaw, Susan from Hufflepuff, and Blaise from Slytherin. They sprawled across the comfortable furniture as Harry explained a complicated wand movement for charms. "Like this," he demonstrated. "It's a figure eight with a twist at the end, see?" "That's not what Flitwick showed us," Blaise objected. "Modern wand movements are simplified," Harry explained. "The original versions had more precision but required more practice. Here, try it." Blaise attempted the motion, producing a stronger levitation charm than he'd managed previously. His eyebrows shot up. "That's actually better." "Founder's magic," Ron said with a grin. "Better than the textbooks." "Speaking of founders," Susan ventured cautiously, "is it true you can access parts of the castle no one else can?" Harry exchanged glances with Hermione, who nodded encouragingly. "Some places, yeah. The castle recognizes me as heir." "Like what?" Blaise leaned forward, interest piqued. "Well." Harry hesitated. "I could show you something small tonight, I suppose." "Yes." Ron pumped his fist. "Secret passage time." "Nothing dangerous," Harry clarified. "Just something the castle showed me yesterday. After curfew, with the help of Harry's mental map from the castle itself, the 6 students slipped through corridors that helpfully remained free of patrolling teachers or prefects. Harry led them to a tapestry on the 3rd floor that depicted the 4 founders working together to create the Great Hall. "Watch," he whispered, placing his palm against the stone beside the tapestry. "Castle, show us the founder's perspective." The wall shimmered, and the tapestry transformed into a doorway. Beyond it lay a small, circular room with 4 massive windows, except they weren't windows at all. Each window showed a perfect view of one house's common room, as if they were invisible observers within those spaces. "Whoa," Ron breathed. "You can spy on all the houses?" "Not exactly spying," Harry explained. "The founders created this room to keep track of their students' welfare. It only shows the common areas, not dorms, and I can't hear anything. It's more for making sure everyone's safe." Blaise studied the Slytherin common room view with calculation. "Does anyone else know about this room?" "Probably not. The castle only revealed it to me because I asked for ways the founders used to unite the houses." Luna gazed dreamily at the Ravenclaw scene. "Our common room looks beautiful from this angle. Like being underwater and looking up at the stars." They spent several minutes observing the different common rooms, Gryffindor's cozy warmth, Hufflepuff's earthy comfort, Ravenclaw's airy elegance, and Slytherin's sophisticated grandeur. "They're all wonderful in different ways," Hermione observed. "It's sad how little interaction there is between houses now." "That's what the founders want me to change," Harry said quietly. "They believe the division has weakened Hogwarts. And we're the start, aren't we?" Susan realized. "A group with someone from each house." Harry nodded. "If you're willing. No pressure though." Blaise crossed his arms. "Slytherin House won't easily accept friendship with Gryffindors. Centuries of rivalry don't disappear overnight." "No," Harry agreed. "But they might listen to reason from one of their own. Especially when they learn what Salazar really intended." "And what was that?" Blaise challenged. Harry's posture shifted subtly, his voice taking on a hint of Slytherin's cadence. "Protection, not prejudice. Strength through selective alliances, not isolation. The snake strikes to defend its nest, not out of malice." Blaise's eyes widened slightly. "That contradicts everything we've been taught about Slytherin's philosophy." "History is written by the victors," Harry replied, "and Salazar wasn't present to defend his reputation after he left." As they made their way back to Harry's tower for hot chocolate before returning to their dormitories, the group fell into natural conversation about classes, professors, and typical first-year concerns. Yet something fundamental had shifted, the seeds of genuine inter-house friendship had been planted. Harry felt the founders' approval as warm currents in his mind. This was just the beginning. Severus Snape's dungeon classroom fell silent as Harry entered for his first potions lesson. The Gryffindor and Slytherin first years watched with bated breath. Everyone had heard about the potions master's notorious dislike for the boy who lived. Harry took a seat between Ron and Hermione, bracing himself. The founder's memories provided extensive knowledge of potions, particularly from Salazar, but that might only antagonize Snape further. The professor swept into the room, black robes billowing dramatically. He began with his standard first-year speech about bottling fame and brewing glory, his dark eyes eventually fixing on Harry. "Potter," he snapped suddenly. "Where would you look if I asked you to find a bezoar?" Harry met his gaze steadily. "A bezoar is a stone found in the stomach of a goat, Professor. It will save you from most poisons." "Lucky guess," Snape sneered. "What is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane?" "They're the same plant, also called aconite," Harry answered promptly. "Though there are 17 subspecies with varying potency for different applications." Snape's eyes narrowed. "And which subspecies would you select for a standard wolfsbane potion?" Harry hesitated. That was definitely not first-year knowledge. Snape was deliberately testing the limits of his founder knowledge. "Answer him," Salazar's voice urged. Show him proper respect for his craft, but demonstrate my knowledge. Aconitum lycoctonum, Harry replied carefully. Northern wolfsbane. Its properties maintain stability longer during the lunar-sensitive brewing phases. Though I understand that's well beyond our current curriculum, Professor. Snape stared at him, conflict evident in his expression. The familiar hatred for James Potter warred with reluctant academic interest. Correct, he finally acknowledged. It seems Salazar Slytherin's potions knowledge remains intact. He turned away abruptly. Today you will brew a simple cure for boils. Instructions are on the board. Begin. As the class scrambled for ingredients, Harry worked methodically. Rather than showing off, he deliberately brewed at a first-year level, though he couldn't help making tiny improvements Salazar insisted upon, stirring counterclockwise twice after every fifth clockwise stir, crushing snake fangs with the flat of the blade rather than grinding them. Snape stalked the classroom, criticizing Gryffindors harshly while offering suggestions to Slytherins. When he reached Harry's cauldron, he paused, examining the perfect pale pink potion. Using Slytherin's techniques, Potter, he asked quietly. Some, Harry admitted. He's rather insistent about proper ingredient preparation. Something almost like amusement flickered in Snape's eyes. Indeed. 5 points too. He paused, as McGonagall had. Slytherin today, I think, Harry suggested. Since we're in the dungeons. Snape's eyebrow arched. 5 points to Slytherin, then. He moved away, leaving Harry cautiously optimistic about their future interactions. After class, he deliberately lingered, letting his friends go ahead. Professor, he approached Snape's desk hesitantly. What is it, Potter? Snape didn't look up from the essays he was marking. Salazar wanted me to tell you something. About your adjustments to the draft of peace. That got Snape's attention. His head snapped up. What about them? He says your innovation with powdered moonstone suspension is brilliant. Something he wishes he'd thought of himself. Harry shifted uncomfortably. And he says, you would have made an excellent apprentice in his time. Snape stared at him, genuinely speechless for perhaps the first time in his teaching career. That's all, Harry finished awkwardly. Have a good day, Professor. He hurried from the classroom, leaving a thoroughly disconcerted potions master behind. 2 weeks into the term, Harry sat in Dumbledore's office for one of his special instruction periods. These sessions focused on matters too advanced or sensitive for regular classes, particularly regarding the Founder's knowledge and the mysterious threats they had faced. You've integrated well as a student, Dumbledore observed, offering a lemon drop which Harry declined. Professor McGonagall reports you're showing admirable restraint in demonstrations of your abilities. I'm trying not to stand out more than I already do, Harry said. Though it's hard sometimes when the castle keeps doing things around me. Just yesterday, suits of armor had saluted as he passed, and a previously blank wall had revealed an ancient mural depicting the Founders raising Hogwarts from bare earth. Yes, the castle's response to you is quite remarkable, Dumbledore agreed. Have you had any further direct communications? It's getting clearer every day, Harry confirmed. Still mostly impressions and images, but sometimes actual words form in my mind. And it responds to requests, like keeping Peeves away from my friends during study sessions. Dumbledore chuckled. A feat even I cannot manage consistently. His expression turned more serious. And what of your dreams? Any further visions of the Devourer, was it? Harry sobered immediately. Nothing specific. Just a sense of darkness watching. The Founders feel it too, a stirring of the same force they fought before. And they still cannot explain precisely what this entity is. They're being careful about releasing those memories, Harry explained. The encounter nearly destroyed them last time. They don't want to overwhelm me with the full horror of it until I'm ready. Wise, Dumbledore agreed. Though I wish we had more information to prepare. Harry hesitated, then decided to share what he'd discovered. I found something in the Founder's Tower last night. A hidden compartment activated when I was researching dimensional theory. From his bag, he withdrew an ancient leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with Ravenclaw's eagle. Rowena's private research on the entity. She called it an obscura vorax, a devouring darkness. It's not from our world originally. Dumbledore accepted the journal with reverent hands. May I? That's why I brought it. Rowena thinks you might see connections she missed. But... Harry looked troubled. There's something else. The Founders believe Voldemort somehow contacted this entity during his dark experiments. That it's been guiding him, feeding him information in exchange for eventually being brought fully into our world. A concerning theory, Dumbledore said gravely. And one that aligns with certain peculiarities in Tom's magical research before his fall. Harry leaned forward. The Philosopher's Stone. That's why he wants it, isn't it? Not just for immortality, but because its power could help breach the dimensional barriers. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. You've deduced the stone's presence in the castle. The Founders recognize Nicholas Flamel's magical signature. And the third-floor corridor is practically screaming with protective enchantments. Harry shrugged. Plus, Hagrid's terrible at keeping secrets. I see. Dumbledore steepled his fingers. Yes, the stone is here for safekeeping. And your theory about Tom's intentions is disturbingly plausible. He's here too, Harry said flatly. In the castle. The Founders can sense fragments of his magical signature. Have you identified where or how? Harry shook his head. Not yet. The castle's trying to help me trace it, but it's elusive, like it's moving around. Keep monitoring, but do not, I repeat, do not, investigate alone if you locate the source. Dumbledore fixed him with a stern gaze. Promise me, Harry. I promise to get help, Harry agreed carefully. Though alone is a relative term when you have 4 Founders in your head. Even so. Dumbledore sighed. Now, shall we turn to more immediate matters? I believe you wish to discuss the restoration of certain foundational magics that have been lost to time. Harry nodded eagerly, his concern momentarily set aside. Helga developed healing spells that work without wands, perfect for emergency situations. And Godric created defensive charms that respond to intent rather than specific incantations. For the next hour, they explored ancient magical techniques the Founders wished to reintroduce to modern wizardry. Despite the shadows of danger hanging over them, Harry found genuine joy in sharing knowledge that had been lost for centuries. Sir, he asked as their session concluded, would it be possible to teach some of these techniques to my friends? Nothing dangerous, just useful spells that have been forgotten. Dumbledore considered this. Under supervision, perhaps. Professor Flitwick might enjoy overseeing such extracurricular instruction. His eyes twinkled. I understand you've assembled quite the inter-house study group. Most encouraging. Harry grinned. The Founders are pretty insistent about house unity. Apparently, the rivalry was meant to be friendly competition, not, whatever it's become. Indeed, Dumbledore mused. Much like Hogwarts itself, perhaps our traditions require occasional awakening to their original purpose. October arrived with swirling leaves and chilly winds. Harry settled into a routine that balanced regular classes, special training, time with friends from all houses, and private research into both the Founders' knowledge and the growing threat of Voldemort's presence. His tower room had become a hub for inter-house cooperation. Students who would never have spoken to each other found common ground there, initially drawn by curiosity about the Founders' heir but staying for the unique learning opportunities and gradually developing friendships. Harry's expanded study group now met 3 times weekly, with Professor Flitwick supervising their exploration of foundational magic. The tiny charms master was delighted by the ancient techniques Harry shared, often joining in practice sessions himself. Excellent, Miss Granger. Flitwick squeaked as Hermione successfully performed a wandless illumination charm Helga had developed. A gentle globe of light hovered above her palm, responding to her breath, growing brighter as she exhaled, dimming as she inhaled. It's so much more intuitive than Lumos, she marveled. You can control it naturally without constantly focusing. These old magics worked with the body's natural energies, Harry explained. Wands make spellcasting more precise and powerful, but they also created dependency. The founders believed every witch and wizard should master some wandless techniques for emergencies. Neville, who had joined their group after Harry helped him in herbology, looked doubtful. I can barely make spells work with a wand. That's because modern teaching starts with wands, Harry told him. Try this instead. He guided Neville through a simple earth-connecting meditation Helga had designed for struggling students. Feel your magic reaching into the soil, like plant roots seeking water. Neville closed his eyes, following the visualization. Gradually, the potted plant between them began to grow, its stems extending visibly without a wand or incantation. I'm doing it. Neville exclaimed, opening his eyes, then promptly lost concentration, stopping the growth. I actually did magic without a wand. Plant magic is your natural affinity, Harry said. Helga would have started you there instead of generic spells. Even Blaise, typically reserved, looked impressed. These techniques make more sense than half of what we're taught in class. Modern magic prioritizes standardization over individual strengths, Flitwick commented. An unfortunate necessity with large class sizes, but perhaps not always the most effective approach. Luna, who had been practicing a Ravenclaw focusing technique, looked up dreamily. The castle approves of what we're doing. Can't you feel it humming? Everyone paused. Harry had grown so accustomed to Hogwarts' subtle communications that he hadn't noticed, but Luna was right, the stones beneath them vibrated with gentle approval. The castle's getting more expressive, Harry confirmed. It's like it's waking up more every day. Waking up? Ron questioned. From what? Harry exchanged glances with Flitwick. A kind of dormancy, I guess. The founders built Hogwarts to be partially sentient, but over centuries, with changing headmasters and faculty using different magics, some of the original enchantments became sleepy. And your presence is reactivating them, Hermione concluded. Fascinating. Is that why those moving staircases stop changing directions when you're on them? They're showing off, Harry said with a laugh. Like a pet trying to please its owner. Though that's not quite right, Hogwarts is more of a partner than a possession. The study session continued with practices of various founder techniques. Harry moved among his friends, offering guidance drawn from 4 different teaching styles, Godric's encouragement, Rowena's precision, Helga's patience, and Salazar's strategic hints. After everyone left, Flitwick lingered behind. You're doing remarkable work, Mr. Potter. Not just mastering these ancient magics, but bringing students together across house lines. It's what the founders want, Harry said simply. What they intended all along. And the other matter? Flitwick asked more seriously. Any progress identifying the source of He Who Must Not Be Named's presence? Harry's expression darkened. I'm narrowing it down. The castle's helping me track the magical disruptions. They seem to center around Professor Quirrell, but that doesn't make sense, his magic feels weak, not dark. Perhaps a Confundus or Imperius? Flitwick suggested. Maybe. Harry didn't sound convinced. Whatever it is, it's getting stronger. And the founders are getting more insistent about preparing defenses. Flitwick nodded grimly. Keep me informed, Mr. Potter. And remember your promise to Professor Dumbledore, no heroics alone. I remember, Harry assured him, though the founders' voices in his mind had their own opinions on that particular promise. Halloween morning dawned with excitement buzzing through the castle. Harry woke early, a strange uneasiness settling over him. The founders' presences stirred restlessly in his mind. A dangerous day, Salazar's voice whispered. The veils between worlds thin. Be vigilant, Godric added. Dark forces gather strength from ancient celebrations. Harry pressed his palm to his tower wall. Hogwarts, show me any unusual activity in the castle today. The stone rippled beneath his touch, forming a castle-wide map with several pulsing points of light, the most intense near the third-floor corridor, another in the defense against the dark arts office, and a third deep beneath the dungeons. The chamber, Harry murmured, recognizing the location. Something's active down there. He dressed quickly and hurried to breakfast, scanning the staff table immediately. Quirrell was absent. Dumbledore too was missing, presumably away on ICW business as he'd mentioned earlier that week. Not good timing. Happy Halloween. Ron greeted him at the Gryffindor table. Did you see the decorations? Floating pumpkins everywhere. Yeah, brilliant, Harry replied distractedly. Have you seen Professor McGonagall this morning? She was heading toward the library when I came down, Hermione supplied. Something about supervising the decoration of the restricted section. Harry nodded. Thanks. Save me some toast, I need to speak with her. He hurried off before they could question him further. The castle seemed to assist his urgency, staircases aligning perfectly for his path, doors swinging open as he approached. He found McGonagall directing Madame Pants about Halloween garlands near the library entrance. Professor, he called, slightly out of breath. Could I speak with you privately? It's important. McGonagall recognized his serious expression immediately. Certainly, Mr. Potter. Irma, please continue without me for a moment. She led him to a nearby empty classroom, casting privacy charms as soon as the door closed. What's happened, Harry? The castle showed me unusual magical activity this morning. 3 locations, the third-floor corridor, Quirrell's office, and... He hesitated. The Chamber of Secrets. McGonagall's eyebrows shot up. Are you certain? Yes. And Quirrell wasn't at breakfast. The founders are uneasy, they say Halloween weakens the barriers between dimensions. Between dimensions? Her expression grew more concerned. You believe this connects to the obscura vorax albus mentioned? Harry nodded. Voldemort's trying something today. I can feel it. McGonagall straightened, immediately shifting to crisis mode. I'll contact Albus immediately and alert the other heads of house. In the meantime, I should check the chamber, Harry interrupted. The founders built it as Hogwarts' final defense, not as Slytherin's monster lair like the legends say. If something's activating down there, I need to know what. Absolutely not, McGonagall said firmly. That's precisely the sort of investigation Albus warned against. I won't engage anything dangerous, Harry promised. But the chamber responds only to Parseltongue and founder magic. If Voldemort's found another way in, then we'll handle it properly, with full faculty support. McGonagall's tone brooked no argument. Return to your classmates, Harry. Attend your morning classes as normal while we investigate. I'll ensure someone trustworthy checks on each location you've identified. Harry wanted to protest but recognized the wisdom in her approach. All right. But please be careful around Quirrell. There's something not right about him. We'll exercise appropriate caution, she assured him. Now off you go. Harry reluctantly returned to breakfast, his senses heightened for any sign of trouble. The founders' voices continued their uneasy murmuring in his mind, confirming his suspicion that McGonagall's cautious approach might not be sufficient for whatever was unfolding. Throughout Charm's class, Harry struggled to concentrate. When Professor Flitwick paired them for levitation practice, he absently made his feather zoom around the room with barely a gesture, earning him a pointed look from the professor who clearly expected more discretion. Sorry, Harry mouthed, reining in the display. You okay? Ron whispered beside him. You've been jumpy all morning. Just a feeling, Harry replied quietly. Something's not right today. By lunchtime, his uneasiness had grown stronger. The castle's communications felt increasingly urgent, stone warming beneath his feet, corridors subtly directing him toward the second floor. "I need to check something," he told his friends as they headed to the Great Hall. "Save me a seat." "Harry," Hermione began worriedly. "I'll just be a minute," he insisted. "Castle business." He followed the castle's guidance to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, understanding dawning as he approached. Of course, this was the most accessible entrance to the Chamber of Secrets, the one Salazar had used most frequently despite the legends focusing on the more dramatic main entrance. Inside the empty bathroom, Harry approached the sink with the snake engraving. "Open," he hissed in Parseltongue. The sink receded, revealing the entrance to the pipe system. Harry hesitated, remembering his promise to McGonagall. But the castle's urgency and the Founder's concern overrode his caution. "Stairs," he commanded, and the slippery pipe transformed into a spiral staircase. At least he wouldn't have to slide down filthy plumbing. Harry descended carefully, illuminating his way with a wandless light sphere. The passage below was dusty but not as decrepit as he'd expected. Halfway down the main tunnel, he felt Slytherin's memories surfacing more prominently, guiding him not toward the main chamber but a smaller side passage hidden behind a subtle snake carving. "Reveal," he hissed, and the wall dissolved, showing a control room of sorts. 7 crystal pillars stood in a circle, each carved with hundreds of tiny runes. In the center lay a stone basin similar to a pensieve, but filled with what appeared to be liquid silver. "The Nexus," Harry murmured, Salazar's knowledge flowing through him. "Hogwarts' central defense system." He approached cautiously. The silver liquid in the basin swirled actively, forming and reforming patterns, something it shouldn't do without Founder activation. Someone had tampered with it. Harry placed his hands on the basin's edge, allowing Salazar's essence to examine the disturbance. Images flashed through his mind, Quirrell standing in this very spot the previous night, chanting in a language even the Founders didn't recognize, another voice issuing instructions. "Voldemort," Harry whispered. "He's possessing Quirrell somehow." The liquid silver rippled violently at the name, confirming his suspicion. Worse, Harry could now see what had been done. Quirrell had redirected the castle's ancient defenses, creating a blind spot around the third-floor corridor while simultaneously weakening the dimensional barriers within Hogwarts. "He's making a gateway," Rowena's voice warned. "Using the stone's power to create a bridge. Not just for himself," Salazar added grimly. "For the Devourer." Harry's blood ran cold. If Voldemort succeeded in bringing even a portion of the Obscura Vorax into the physical world. He pressed his palm against the nearest crystal pillar. "Hogwarts, alert the headmaster and all faculty. Emergency Protocol Founder Alpha." The pillar glowed briefly, but then flickered weakly. Quirrell's tampering had compromised even the emergency systems. Harry made an instant decision. Placing both hands into the silver liquid, he channeled the combined essence of all 4 Founders, something only their true heir could safely attempt. The liquid surged up his arms without harming him, recognizing his magical signature. "Reset defense configurations," he commanded, his voice overlaid with 4 distinct harmonizing tones. "Purge foreign influence. Restore Founder protocols." The silver liquid flashed blindingly bright, then settled into a calm, regular pulse. The crystal pillars hummed with renewed energy, their runes glowing in sequence. "Show me Quirrell's current location," Harry instructed. The basin's surface rippled, forming a 3-dimensional map of Hogwarts. A dark red dot pulsed near the third-floor corridor, moving with purpose toward the forbidden section. He's going for the stone now, Harry realized. Today's distraction must be coming, as if summoned by his thought, a deep, reverberating alarm sounded throughout the castle. From the basin image, Harry saw a marker appear in the dungeons labeled Troll, Hostile. "The distraction," he muttered. "Classic strategy, release a dangerous creature to occupy the faculty while he goes after the real target." Harry faced a crucial decision. The responsible course would be returning upstairs to warn the professors directly. But Quirrell was already approaching the stone's protections, and Voldemort's possession made him far more dangerous than anyone realized. "Go after him," Godric urged. "You're ready." "Not alone," Helga countered. "Gather your allies first." "There's no time," Salazar argued. "The stone cannot fall into their hands." "The chamber can help us," Rowena suggested. "Activate the Guardian." Harry nodded, decision made. He approached a smaller basin in the corner of the control room, this one filled with clear water. Pricking his finger with a conjured needle, he allowed 3 drops of blood to fall into the water. "Custodite Scolam," he intoned in Latin. "Protector, awaken and defend." The water in the basin bubbled violently before draining away completely. Deep beneath them, something massive stirred, not the basilisk of legend, but something far more ancient that predated even Slytherin's arrival at Hogwarts. "Secure the students," Harry continued, "contain the troll, but harm no innocent." With the Guardian awakened and the castle's defenses reset, Harry turned his attention to the third-floor corridor. He couldn't reach it in time on foot, but... "Hogwarts," he said firmly, "I need a direct passage to the stone's chamber." Founder override. The wall before him rippled, stones rearranging themselves to form an archway filled with swirling mist, a temporary portal through the castle's dimensional fabric, a founder privilege never recorded in Hogwarts, a history. Harry stepped through without hesitation, emerging not in the corridor with Fluffy as he expected, but directly in the final chamber housing the Mirror of Eriste and the Philosopher's Stone. He quickly concealed himself behind a pillar as voices reached his ears. "Master, I see the stone in the mirror, but I cannot reach it." Quirrell's voice trembled with fear. "Use the boy." A second voice rasped, high, cold, and unnaturally distorted. "Find Potter. He can retrieve it." "Too late for that," Harry announced, stepping into view with his founder wand raised. "Hello, Professor. Or should I say, Professors." Quirrell spun around, his normally nervous demeanor replaced with cold fury. "Potter. How convenient that you've delivered yourself." His voice had changed, becoming more confident, more dangerous. "I know you're carrying Voldemort," Harry said calmly, though his heart raced. "Possessing you, or something similar. I can sense his magic." "Clever boy," the cold voice hissed. "Let me speak to him, face to face." "Master, you are not strong enough." Quirrell protested. "I have strength enough, for this." Harry watched in horrified fascination as Quirrell unwrapped his turban, revealing what appeared to be a second face protruding from the back of his head, pale, snake-like, with glowing red eyes. "Harry Potter." Voldemort whispered. "See what I have become. Mere shadow and vapor, forced to share another's body. But not for long. Once I have the elixir of life, I will have my own body. Now, why don't you give me that stone in your pocket?" Harry blinked in confusion, instinctively checking his robe pocket. To his astonishment, he felt something hard there that hadn't been present moments before. Somehow, just by confronting Voldemort with pure intention, he triggered the mirror's enchantment. "I don't think so," Harry replied, taking a defensive stance. "The Founders have shown me what you're really planning. Not just resurrection, you're trying to bring something through from another dimension. The Devourer." Voldemort's face showed momentary surprise before twisting into a cruel smile. "So the Founders' memories serve you well?" "Yes, Potter, the Obscura Vorax. A being of pure magical consumption. It has guided me, taught me secrets beyond mortal understanding." "It's using you," Harry countered. "Once it crosses over, it will consume your magic too. It doesn't discriminate." "Foolish child. I will control it, harness its power, like you're controlling Quirrell." Harry interrupted. "How's that working out for him?" Quirrell's body twitched uncomfortably, confirming Harry's suspicion that the possession was destroying the host. "Enough talk," Voldemort snarled. "Seize him." Quirrell lunged forward with inhuman speed. Harry reacted instinctively, channeling Godric's combat reflexes to sidestep the attack while casting a shield charm. What followed was unlike any duel taught at Hogwarts. Harry moved with the combined fighting knowledge of 4 founders, alternating between styles with fluid grace. One moment he employed Godric's direct offensive spells, the next Rowena's precise counters, then Helga's deceptively simple deflections, and finally Salazar's misdirection tactics. Impossible, Quirrell gasped after Harry transformed the floor beneath him to quicksand before instantly solidifying it again, trapping the professor's feet. No first year could. I'm not just a first year, Harry reminded him, breathing heavily from exertion. And you're not just a professor. Quirrell snarled and blasted himself free with dark magic that scorched the surrounding stone. The stone, Potter. Give it to me, and I might let you live. You need me alive anyway, Harry countered, dodging a curse. To tell you how to control the Devourer. The founders sealed it away once, only they know the binding ritual. This was a calculated bluff, but it worked. Voldemort's face contorted with uncertainty. Capture him alive. Quirrell changed tactics, launching binding spells rather than deadly curses. Harry defended capably but found himself gradually being backed toward the chamber wall. Despite his founder's knowledge, his 11-year-old body had physical limitations, his magical core couldn't sustain this level of combat indefinitely. The chamber, Salazar urged suddenly. Call the chamber here. Harry understood immediately. With a deep breath, he dropped to one knee, pressing his palm against the stone floor while deflecting Quirrell's attacks with his wand hand. Hogwarts, open the way of founders, he commanded in Parseltongue mixed with Latin. Chamber of Secrets, reveal yourself here. The entire chamber shuddered violently. Stone groaned against stone as the floor began to split apart between Harry and Quirrell, revealing a growing chasm that plunged into darkness. What are you doing? Quirrell shouted, scrambling backward from the widening gap. From the depths, something massive began to rise, not a basilisk, but a creature of living stone and metal, vaguely humanoid but with 4 distinct faces representing each founder. The Guardian of Hogwarts, awakened for the first time in centuries. Protect the stone, Harry instructed it. Contain the possessed one, but do not kill. The Guardian extended stone arms toward Quirrell, who blasted it with increasingly desperate dark magic. The spells left scorch marks but did little substantial damage to the ancient construct. This isn't over, Potter. Voldemort's voice hissed as the Guardian closed in. I will have the stone, and the Devourer will feed tonight. Harry felt a sudden chill as reality seemed to waver around Quirrell. The air behind him darkened unnaturally, forming what appeared to be a small tear in space itself, a glimpse into absolute nothingness that hurt the eyes to observe directly. He's opening a portal, Harry realized in horror. Using Quirrell's life force to create a temporary doorway. Master, no. Quirrell screamed as his body began to wither, magic and life essence being channeled into the growing rift. The Founders' presences surged forward within Harry, their alarm palpable. Close it, they commanded in unison. Before anything comes through. Harry raised his Founder wand, channeling all 4 magical signatures simultaneously, something he'd never attempted at full strength before. Multicolored energy spiraled around him as he intoned an ancient sealing ritual Rowena provided, by earth and air, by fire and sea, by Founder's will, sealed you shall be. Return to void, to darkness deep, the veil between our worlds shall keep. The incantation pulled magic from Harry's core at an alarming rate, channeling it toward the dimensional tear. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen, then something pushed back from the other side. A formless darkness began seeping through the rift like black smoke, bringing with it a cold that went beyond physical sensation. The Devourer. Even this tiny portion of its essence radiated ancient malevolence. Harry faltered under the psychic pressure, his knees weakening. The Founders' voices cried out in his mind, providing strength but also reflecting their own trauma from their previous encounter with this entity. I can't hold it, Harry gasped, the sealing spell wavering. In that critical moment, the Guardian moved with surprising speed for its size. It placed itself between Harry and the rift, absorbing the encroaching darkness into its stone body. As the construct made contact with the Devourer's essence, a blinding flash filled the chamber. When Harry's vision cleared, he saw the Guardian holding Quirrell's unconscious form, the dimensional tier sealed completely. But the construct itself had changed, veins of black now ran through its stone body, pulsing faintly. "You contained it," Harry whispered in awe. "Absorbed what came through." The Guardian inclined its head slightly in acknowledgement, though its stone features revealed no emotion. "Harry!" Multiple voices called from the chamber entrance. Harry turned to see Dumbledore rushing in, followed closely by McGonagall, Snape, and Flitwick. The cavalry had finally arrived. "The stone," Harry said weakly, reaching into his pocket. Voldemort was possessing Quirrell. He tried to open a portal to the Devourer. Dumbledore reached him just as Harry's legs gave out. The headmaster caught him easily, lowering him gently to the floor. "Rest, my boy," he said gravely. "You've done more than enough." Harry's consciousness wavered, magical exhaustion taking its toll. Through dimming vision, he saw the professors examining the Guardian with astonishment, Quirrell's restrained form, and the scorch marks where the dimensional rift had briefly opened. "The Founders," Harry murmured. "They need to show you how they defeated it before." As darkness claimed him, he felt the Founders' presences stir more strongly than ever before. His last sensation was of his body glowing with 4 distinct lights, red, yellow, blue, and green, rising from his chest to hover around him in semi-transparent forms. For the first time since awakening in Harry's mind, the 4 Founders manifested separately, if briefly, to share critical knowledge with the Hogwarts faculty while their young vessel recovered. Harry woke in the hospital wing, sunlight streaming through high windows. His body ached as if he'd played 3 Quidditch matches back-to-back, and his magical core felt tender, like a muscle overworked to its limits. "He's awake." Hermione's voice called from nearby. Suddenly he was surrounded by faces: Ron, Hermione, Neville, Luna, Susan, Blaise, and others from his Interhouse study group. "Mate, that was bloody brilliant!" Ron exclaimed. "The whole castle felt it when you activated that stone guardian thing." "Language, Ronald," Hermione admonished, though without much conviction. "Harry, you've been unconscious for 2 days. We've been so worried." 2 days. Harry croaked, his throat dry. Neville quickly offered him water. "The castle went crazy after you passed out," Blaise informed him. "Secret passages appeared everywhere, suits of armor were patrolling the corridors, and the ghosts kept bowing to your unconscious body as they brought you here. Everyone's talking about how you stopped you-know-who from stealing the Philosopher's Stone," Susan added. "And something about a dimensional rift?" Harry tried to sit up, wincing at the effort. "How much do you know?" His friends exchanged glances. "Dumbledore made an announcement," Hermione explained. "He said Professor Quirrell had been possessed by you-know-who, and had attempted to steal an important magical artifact being stored at Hogwarts. He said you discovered the plot and alerted the castle's ancient defenses. He left out the part where you supposedly dueled Quirrell single-handedly," Neville added, "but the ghosts have been talking about it non-stop. And something about 4 glowing figures appearing around you after you collapsed," Luna said dreamily. "The Founders themselves, visible for just a few minutes. They spoke to the professors about something called the Devourer." Harry nodded slowly. "It's complicated. Where's Professor Dumbledore now?" "Right here, my boy." The headmaster's voice came from the doorway. He approached Harry's bed with McGonagall, Snape, and Flitwick following. "I believe your friends have been monopolizing your attention long enough. Perhaps they could return after dinner." There were protests, but eventually the students filed out, each promising to return later with notes from missed classes or, in Ron's case, proper food instead of hospital mush. Once they were alone, Dumbledore conjured chairs for himself and the other professors. "How are you feeling?" Harry. Like I tried to channel too much magic at once, Harry replied honestly. The founders say my core will recover completely, but it needs time. Indeed, Dumbledore agreed. What you attempted would have killed most adult wizards. Channeling all 4 founders simultaneously while performing dimensional magic is beyond reckless. I didn't have much choice, Harry defended. Voldemort was opening a portal to the Devourer. If even a fraction of it had fully emerged, we know, McGonagall interrupted gently. The founders explained everything when they manifested. That was unexpected, Harry admitted. I didn't know they could appear separately from me. Nor did they, Dumbledore said. It seems the extreme magical circumstances, combined with your unconsciousness, created a brief window for their essences to partially externalize. Most fortuitous, as they were able to provide critical information about our new enemy. The Obscura Vorax, Snape intoned, his expression grave. A parasite from between dimensions that consumes magic itself. They told you how they defeated it before? Harry asked hopefully. In part, Flitwick replied. Though, defeated, may be an optimistic term. Temporarily contained might be more accurate. The ritual required all 4 of them working in perfect harmony, channeling the combined magic of Hogwarts itself. And nearly killed them in the process, McGonagall added. It's why they created the contingency plan to preserve aspects of themselves in the first place. Harry absorbed this soberly. So Voldemort's still out there, and now he's trying to bring this thing through to our world. Yes, Dumbledore confirmed. Quirrell did not survive the possession, I'm afraid. Voldemort abandoned his body when the Guardian contained him, and the strain proved fatal. But Tom himself escaped, likely weakened but determined. And the fragment of the Devourer that came through the rift? Contained within the Guardian for now, Dumbledore explained. The construct appears to have been designed for precisely this purpose, a last line of defense capable of temporarily imprisoning extradimensional entities. The founders don't think it's a permanent solution, Harry said, sensing their unease at this arrangement. The Devourer will gradually corrupt the Guardian from within. They expressed similar concerns, Snape acknowledged. However, they also provided instructions for strengthening the containment. Professor Flitwick and I have already begun implementing the necessary enchantments. Harry relaxed slightly. And the stone? Safely returned to Nicholas Flamel, Dumbledore assured him. Though he and Perenelle have decided to destroy it after ensuring their affairs are in order. Too dangerous to keep existing now that Tom has demonstrated such interest in it. What happens now? Harry asked. The professors exchanged glances before Dumbledore answered. Now, my dear boy, you rest and recover. When you're ready, we'll continue your special training with renewed purpose. The Founder's manifestation provided valuable insights into preparing you for the challenges ahead. And my friends? Harry pressed. They deserve to know what we're facing. Some edited version of events, perhaps, McGonagall suggested. But the full truth about the Devourer would only cause panic. Not the full truth, Harry agreed, but they need to know enough to protect themselves. The Founders are insistent about this. Last time, they faced the Devourer alone and nearly failed. This time, they believe wider cooperation is essential. Dumbledore studied him thoughtfully. The house unity you've been building, that wasn't just a social experiment, was it? It's what Hogwarts was always meant to be, Harry replied. For different approaches to magic, working in harmony rather than opposition. The Founders believe it's the only way we'll survive what's coming. Very well, Dumbledore decided. Once you've recovered, we'll work together to determine what information can be safely shared with your study group. For now, however, Madame Pomfrey has threatened to ban even me from the hospital wing if we tire you further. As if summoned by her name, the matron bustled in, shooing even the headmaster away with stern warnings about exhausted magical cores and the need for complete rest. Left alone, Harry stared up at the hospital wing ceiling, processing everything that had happened. The confrontation with Quirrell and Voldemort had been just the beginning, a skirmish before the real war. The Devourer was now partially present in their world, contained but not defeated, while Voldemort remained free to plot his return. Yet Harry found himself oddly calm. The Founder's presences, though quieter than usual as they recovered from their brief manifestation, radiated determination rather than despair. "We failed once," Godric's voice whispered faintly. "We won't fail again." "We weren't united enough last time," Helga added. "Too divided by our differences." "Too proud to seek wider help," Rowena admitted. "Too secretive with our knowledge," Salazar concluded. Harry nodded to himself. "We'll do better this time," he promised aloud. Together. The castle itself seemed to respond, a gentle vibration running through the hospital wing floor, Hogwarts affirming its commitment to its heir and creators. Outside his window, Harry could see students crossing the grounds between classes, blissfully unaware of the dimensional horror partially contained within their school or the greater threat still waiting beyond the veil. But they wouldn't remain ignorant forever. Challenges were coming that would require every house, every magical tradition working in concert. And Harry, the boy who lived in Founder's heir, would be ready to lead them when that time came. Not alone, as prophecy might have originally intended, but supported by ancient wisdom, loyal friends, and a castle now fully awakened to its purpose. The true heir of Hogwarts had returned, and with him, a new era of magical cooperation was beginning, just in time to face the darkness that hungered for them all. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.